If I can get everyone's attention, please. Good evening and welcome to the Rochester Community Schools Board of Education regular meeting called to order at 6 p.m. Tonight we have with us the Adams High School String Quartet, and I'm going to attempt to say their names here, so I'll apologize ahead of time. We have Yagmur Sazgan, Mona Seifrid, Hiba Zara, and Ryan Yu with us tonight, and they're going to be playing the national anthem after we do the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you would stay standing after we do that. So at this time, if you'd please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much for that. Great way to start and to spotlight our orchestra program. This Board of Education regular meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school's district's business and is not a public community meeting. However, there is a time for public participation during the meeting. General public comment will be heard under agenda item, I think it's 10.1, and community members may make comments prior to a vote on any action item. If you wish to speak tonight and have not already filled out a yellow card, they're located on the table in the middle of the media center behind you. Please fill that out. Once you've completed it, hand it to a safe ed officer in a yellow shirt. Please note that the cards must be completed prior to speaking, and I will call the names of those who I have a card for during public comment. When addressing the board, you'll have 3 minutes to speak, and we'll let you know when you have approximately 30 seconds remaining. Please be mindful of this time limit. We also ask when you address the board to please state your name and your relationship to the district, and address your comments to the entire board and not to individual board members, school district employees, or to members of the audience. The board will not be responding to comments or questions during the meeting. However, someone will follow up if needed. We also reserve the right to exclude from our meeting an individual who engages in conduct that constitutes a breach of the peace. To my board colleagues, I would like to remind everyone to please be respectful of each other and our administrators. The specific language can be found under Board Bylaws 0139.5 and 0139.6. On behalf of my colleagues on the board, we are grateful to be able to serve this community and appreciate your support. For roll call, all board members are present. Next, we're going to do something a little unusual. We have some representatives from the City of Rochester who would like to speak to the board regarding the 501 West University Drive building. Because they have a city council meeting at 7 o'clock tonight, we're going to have this discussion now and then proceed with our normal agenda format afterwards. Mr. Silveri, I'll turn this over to you.
Thank you. Very pleased to have from the City of Rochester, Mayor Stuart Bixson and Councilwoman Debbie Jones. We've had some very preliminary conversation about the 501 West University property, and they're here to share some of their thoughts about that with us tonight. So if you'd like to come forward, please.
So I just want to say my name is Stuart Bixson. I'm the mayor of Rochester, and have Debbie Jones here, who is a city council member and is our RCS liaison person. So thank you for having us tonight. And just to put my credentials out there, I am a high school teacher myself in the Waterford School District, so I feel very comfortable seeing all the teachers and stuff. And actually, I see a former Waterford employee out there who I said hello to. So I want to thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak tonight. I just want to say that our school district is such an important part of our city, and we thank you guys for all the work you do. Our city of Rochester, we think, is a great city, and of course the schools are an important part of it. I'm here tonight to talk about the old school administration building that we all know and love. It's an historic building in the center of our city and also has an important legacy in our town. Everywhere I go, people always ask me what's going on with the administration building, and I quickly say, well, it's the school board's building, you know, everybody's very interested in it. A lot of people, especially some seniors who went there and things like that, have a very warm place in their heart for the building. Of course, we understand that this is your building, and I know you guys are in discussion about that, and we respect that and honor that and understand that. But we with the city would like to explore some potential collaborative aspects with the district in a way to hopefully maybe save this building for our city and our community. We would potentially like to turn this building into our city offices, maybe a home for the nonprofits in our community, and we have some other excellent ideas that we are looking at pursuing. So we have some pretty big plans for the building, but again, as Dr. Silveri said, in the very, in the very initial stages. We do understand that this building would take millions of dollars to renovate. We clearly understand that, and we are committed to looking at putting a millage on the ballot this fall to raise that money, and also to give the voters of our city an opportunity to weigh in on this project. So we would not raise that kind of money just on our city council. We would put that out there for our citizens to decide on the building and give them the opportunity to invest in their future or in that building or not to. We have an ambitious schedule, and we would like to get that on the ballot this coming fall. And so we would have to have that, the paperwork and things like that done, pretty much May, June in that area. So we have a very ambitious timeline, but we understand that you guys are in the process of looking at, potential things. So we understand we have to act quickly so you guys can act quickly, and I know time is a commitment. The first step in this project is we'd like to get together and meet and see if we can construct some kind of agreement between the city and the school district. And we're not sure what that looks like, but we want to, explore that and see what we can do. And hopefully there's some collaboration that we can work together on that and do that. We understand you're looking at options, and we understand you have to consider all your options, but we'd like to be able to have you think of us potentially as one of your options. So tonight I'm asking the board just to consider our plan and hopefully have where we can have some meetings to talk about it, some representatives from us, some representative of you, and really as quickly as possible, and see if there's something that we can all agree to, and then we can move forward with the process, or you tell us that there's nothing and the process is ending. But if we can do that as soon as possible, we would like to do that. We're willing to meet at any time and as soon as possible. And we're looking forward to potentially trying to work out some collaborative thing, working together. And again, fully understanding it's the school board's building and you guys are the decision makers. But we would like to be able to work with you and have a meeting as quickly as we can to consider that. So that's what we're here tonight. Debbie, did you have?
You covered it all?
So, we came here very preliminary in the process, but very hopeful and optimistic to hopefully work with you guys. So if you guys have any questions or comments, we would be happy to hear from you guys.
Trustee Weaver?
First, thank you for coming. I think this is very encouraging news. I think our community is really going to enjoy what they just heard. I think the whole process with the old admin building has been one that really has, again, generated a lot of emotion. So again, I think what was just said is really encouraging to the community. I think the process in which you're talking about is as far as putting it to the voters, and again, ultimately giving them the opportunity to say this is what actually the city of Rochester voters want is ideal. So again, I would just say, the sooner you can get us what your guys' proposals look like, I fully support exactly what you guys said. I think it's the right thing to do. The community's made it clear that that's really where they feel, and again, giving them the chance to vote on it. So again, I'm very ecstatic to hear this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Ennis?
So I had a couple clarifying questions. Mr. Silveri, I know that we were looking to get an updated appraisal on that building. Where are we at in that process?
We received an appraisal that we have some questions on that we have followed up with,
Okay.
so I'm delaying just slightly until we get those questions answered so we can know that what we share is kind of ironclad in terms of what that shows, but
Okay.
so that's imminent. We'll be able to, I would be confident, set up a meeting very soon and have that in hand.
Okay. And then one other follow-up point. I know that our community, several communities surrounding the city of Rochester has invested in the library, for instance. So it's not just the city of Rochester that invests in the library, it's also the city of Rochester Hills, it's the township of Oakland. Have you considered also approaching the city of Rochester Hills, the township of Oakland, to expand that possibility that putting a millage on the ballot could also give you a larger swath of voters to help pass what you're proposing?
Yeah, we have not considered that, but I think that's a great idea. And as you say, the OPC, the library, RARA are all great examples of the three communities working together. And this sounds like another great opportunity for that. And again, it's not, the building is in Rochester, but the legacy of that building is in the three
Because I
communities.
know that, there are folks that have a lot of deep roots in the city of Rochester proper that live in Rochester Hills and Oakland Township that they're watching what is happening with this building. So my recommendation would be to cast a wider net to include the city of Rochester Hills, AKA Mayor Barnett, and Oakland Township as well.
Just as a side note, we did tour it, just so you know, last Monday. So we did a preliminary tour with city officials and some council members, just to kind of get a feel. So that was kind of exciting. It was my middle school, so I have a personal attachment to that building. And also, I am pursuing, through some legislators, I'm trying to get some appointments in the next couple weeks as far as funds that are available. There is a trend right now to save old schools. And there, I'm sure, is grant money out there that could be helpful in this process. Unfortunately, we are on a time frame, and a lot of times it's a slow turning wheel on grants, but I will do everything I can to see if there's any funds that will help not burden the citizens so much, so.
Trustee Blake?
Well, I'll agree with Trustee Weaver that this is encouraging to hear. I think a lot of people wanted to see something like this. Are you far enough along in your plans that you have numbers put together? And I'm just wondering if you're looking from us to purchase the building, donate the building, or are we not at that point yet?
Well, I think we're not at that point yet. We haven't got numbers, you know, we felt like before we did that, we wanted to come here first to see if it was, available. If you wanted to donate to us, that would be fantastic. I vote for that
I
one,
just wanted to know
yes.
what you had in mind.
Yeah, yeah, and again, we, you know, we realize that it's gonna cost a lot of money to redo it, so, you know, the best way we could get it would, of course, make it more plausible, yeah, but, but this is our first step. And as I told Dr. Silveri, you know, we didn't wanna presume anything before we met with you, before we talked with you, because we respect that it is your building, and we need to collaborate with you first.
Trustee Gupta?
So I just want to piggyback on what Trustee Annis said about kind of casting a wider net. I think I'm encouraged by the idea, and it sounds like we're in an exploratory phase, and that sounds great. I think I'm not comfortable with the idea of us donating such a large asset, but I'm sure there could be a way creatively to work together in a collaborative way that is mutually beneficial. But casting that wider net with the other municipalities may open doors to other funding avenues, other grant streams, other resources, other ideas. So I definitely think that would be a great idea to pursue that. Now, you don't have a lot of time, so it's hard to do that, but hopefully we can get something together and move forward. So,
Right,
thank you.
Thank you, and really one of the reasons we're on such a time, we're trying to do this so fast, is because we know you guys were, you know, a big project like this would probably take years, but I think none of us have that time, so that's why we're trying to expedite as fast as we can, for our sake, but as, you know, hopefully for your sake as well.
Trustee LaCouey?
Thank you for coming to our meeting. I really appreciate it. I was also feeling very excited about the possibility of collaborating with the City of Rochester. That's something I advocated for when we were talking about this back in September, because I wondered if you might have some really great ideas on what we might be able to do with that building. I appreciate that you acknowledged the grant money. That was a question I was going to ask about. I was also curious just to understand more about the City of Rochester. What kind of budget do you guys typically work with? Because
Well, it's a lot less than the school board's budget.
yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, I mean, so our budget is, yeah, you know, $16-17 million. So and you know, the numbers to renovate that building have been from anything from 12 million to 30 million, you know, depending on it. So I mean, that would be, you know, the residents would have to look at you know, a serious mill or two, probably, to make that work. But again, that's something we would put before the voters. That's not something we would decide on council, and I would never do that anyway. Yeah, so it's a big project for us. But we had a visioning session, and we realized that that's an issue in our city, and nothing was really kind of happening, at least from our end. I mean, we didn't know exactly what was going on. And so we kind of presented it at our goals and objectives, and everyone on our council was excited like you are. Of course, it's the devil's in the details, as well. So, but again, as I'm repeating myself, we had to come here first.
So in answer to your question, we have a very small budget, and yeah, we will need help with the community. And I think that the great thing, and I think you mentioned that also, is that if the community, if it doesn't pass and the building gets torn down, then we've done everything we can to save the building. And
Yeah, all of us.
yeah, the whole community will need to support this venture. And I'm really hopeful that we will save that building. So we have some fun ideas.
Yeah, putting it to the community seems like the right approach. I totally agree with that too, so thank you for
And,
coming.
you know, everybody talks to me about they want to do that. Okay, are you willing to pay for it?
Right.
I mean, that's the decision people are going to have to make.
Right. Thank you, everyone, for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I was just going to comment, just kind of to wrap this up, that I think you've heard, we would like to move forward with some discussions, so I'll ask Mr. Silveri to work on lining some of that up so that we can start that. It is, I think, a very aggressive timeline. So between identifying the needs so that you can put numbers to, because the quotes that we have are, 8 years old or something, they're going to be outdated as well from a cost perspective. So I look forward to hearing more, seeing more, and hopefully we can get all those details wrapped up so that this can get on the ballot and we can move forward.
I'm looking forward to the ribbon cutting. So, yeah, that's what I've got planned. Positive thoughts.
Right, and thank you for putting us on at the beginning of the agenda. We have our meeting, so I really
Yes.
appreciate that. And John's really been very helpful, and as I say, John used to be my superintendent out in Waterford, so we know each other kind of.
Oh, Trustee Weaver?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just had one more comment. I just want to actually thank you for your guys' sense of urgency, because again, it's clear where you guys understand the time frame that we're operating under. I just want to make sure from our district standpoint and from the board standpoint, that building has been sitting for a long time. So again, appreciate your sense of urgency and wanting to move, but there's not like there's pending decisions that have been coming to our table. So the fact that you're coming here, again, my position would be very clear that unless there's some reason we can't do this, that your guys' sense of urgency should be our priority in trying to make that a possibility. For us to act like all of a sudden there's something pending on the back burner, that building's been sitting there for a long time. So again, really appreciate your sense of urgency. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody.
you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Yep, thanks. Thank you.
All right, we are now moving on to the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented? Moved by Trustee Annis. Is there support? Supported by Trustee Gupta. Is there any discussion on this? Trustee Lakouи.
I propose that we add a motion to direct our interim superintendent to add missing requirements to our accounts payable process so that expectations are clearly written for all to follow.
So could we just say motion to amend the agenda to include a discussion on accounts payable?
Yeah, a discussion and motion on accounts payable.
Okay, so that motion to amend the agenda to include a discussion and motion on accounts payable was moved by Trustee Lakoui. Is there support for that? By Trustee Weaver. All right, any discussion? Trustee Lakoui? And again, I'd request that all trustees keep the discussion to not the merits of what we're changing, but why to add it to the agenda at this point.
All right. Well, when we discussed that our financial controls were violated back on November 27th, the interim superintendent requested that board members who are concerned about this use forward thinking and make a proposal.
Trustee Lakoui,
to
this
fix
sounds like
problem.
the debate for why we need
No,
the accounts
Madam-
payable piece
point of
versus
order,
putting
Madam
it on the
President. I'm
agenda.
explaining exactly what this is and why we should add it to our agenda today.
Well, it sounds like the details to it versus like
No,
why it needs to be on the
I'm
agenda.
explaining what it is so that you know whether or not you want to add it to the agenda. So back on November 27th, interim superintendent made a request that if we want to fix what's broken in our financial controls, then we should propose a board policy to fix it. So I set out to do that. And upon thinking about it, I realized that this wasn't really a board policy issue. This was a regulation issue, an administrative regulation that needed to be fixed. And I've been speaking with board members about this ever since. I think I started speaking maybe December 1st. And I was going to propose a motion like this at the last meeting, but I held off because we were told to speak about it first in the Policy Curriculum Committee. But it has become clear that if the written policy is missing this, I see no reason why the board shouldn't just direct the interim superintendent to fix what's missing so that it will best protect the district.
All right, is there discussion? Trustee Alsbach.
Madam President, I call the question.
All right, we have a motion to call the question, actually call the previous question by trustee Alsbach with support from trustee Annis. There is no discussion on this, so all in favor, please say aye. I'm sorry, could I see hands on that, please? I see 3 hands. Those opposed, please say no. No.
No.
That's a 3-4 vote. The motion to call the question did not pass, so we will continue. Is there any discussion on the motion to amend the agenda? Trustee Weaver?
I would support this motion. Again, it goes directly to what was requested from the interim superintendent for us to do. So again, it's acknowledging that dialogue, put it on the agenda, let's talk about it and see where we fall on it.
Trustee Blake?
So I do think we have some opportunities to tighten up some policies in this area. I have agreed with that, and I've passed some ideas along to Trustee Lukui. However, I understand we're talking about doing a work session at some point on our internal controls coming up. I think I heard May possibly. So I think that would be a better time to focus this discussion when we have all of it on the table.
I'm just going to reiterate what Trustee Blake said, that between the recommendation from Mr. Silveri that went out suggesting that this be discussed in the Superintendent's Business and Operations Committee, as well as that we're looking to have a work session on this, I think this belongs at a different timetable. Trustee Lukui?
I think it's still worth discussing whether we should repair this right now, because while I'm excited about the financial controls work session and to see what's being done, if we know that something's missing in the written documentation, it makes sense to try to fix that sooner rather than later. So might as well fix what's broken now, and then we can still learn more about the financial controls in May, or it can get discussed in an informational committee later. But the SBOC committee, the SPCC committee, those are purely informational committees anyways. They're not decision-making committees. So I've seen what happens when stuff goes there. It doesn't really change the situation that we're working with. So just as a matter of protecting the public interest, that's why I think we should just tighten up our controls while we know they need to be tightened.
Trustee Weaver?
I will just say I'm concerned that there continues to be this notion that we have to wait for work sessions, we have to wait for strategic plans, we have to wait for contract negotiations. Like, we can take action on specific issues when specific issues arise. So again, the board's going to vote how it wants to vote, but there's clearly a trend, this idea of just let's kick the can down to a work session and more talk. But again, should be a board of action, and if action needs to be taken, then take it.
All right, so at this time, we have a motion on the motion to amend the agenda to include a discussion and motion on accounts payable. All those in favor of adding that, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no.
No.
No?
No.
That's a 2-5 vote. The motion to amend the agenda does not pass, so we are back to the motion on the floor to approve the agenda as presented. All of those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? That's a 7-0 vote. The agenda is approved as presented, and we're going to move forward. So agenda item 5 is our spotlight on success, and today we have 2 spotlights. I believe first we have a spotlight on middle school esports. Who is leading this? Oh.
A bunch of students with us today, so, yep, just go ahead. Okay, so hi, I am Rachel Monero. I'm our district's instructional technology specialist, and one aspect of my job is to oversee our middle school esports program, so thank you for having us here today. We offer esports in all 4 of our middle schools, and we have over doubled the student participation in just 1 year. Our scholastic esports provides students with the opportunity to develop STEAM-based skills and social emotional attributes such as communication, collaboration, and problem solving. Esports is a rapidly growing field, and there are a number of different roles and career pathways our students get to explore, such as entrepreneurs, gamers, and content creators. So I have with me tonight some of our middle school esports team players who will shed light on the positive impact this program has on our school community.
My name is Layla. I'm a proud member of the West Esports team. This is my first year doing esports. I would like to address the misconception that esports is all about kids sitting in front of screens and playing games. Esports is competitive and organized. It teaches us a range of skills. In esports, one of the main skills that we learn is strategic thinking and how to organize different plans and games. In esports, just like traditional sports, we must plan for different outcomes in games and make split-second decisions. These skills are useful both inside and outside of gaming.
My name is Landon. This is my first year on the. All right, hang on. Test. All right. My name is Landon. This is my first year on the Roofer Esports team. In addition to strategic thinking, being a part of the esports team has taught me the importance of teamwork and communication. The games we play are Mario Kart 8 and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Both are relatively team-based. We do 2v2 Mario Kart and 3v3 Smash Bros., which is a team battle game on the Nintendo Switch.
Hi, my name is Isaac. I play on the Heart Esports team. Collaboration and good communication skills are an important part of our team's success. We constantly talk about how we can improve others' skills in gameplay with each other, and we help each other with our mistakes and flaws. Multiple of my friends and teammates help me get better at the games that we play, and this supports teamwork and collaboration.
Hi, I'm Evan. I'm a member of the Ruther Esports team. Like Isaac said, personal growth is key in esports. As players, we are constantly challenged to improve our skills, learn from our mistakes, and adapt to new situations.
My name is Cash, and this is my first year on the Esports Van Hoosen team. At the end of each match, we shake hands and with our competitors and congratulate them on their gameplay. We are learning how to still be good at sports even if we lose.
Hello, my name is Caroline DeFada, and this is my second year on the Van Hoosen esports team. The esports community is diverse and inclusive, bringing together people with different backgrounds, cultures, and interests. You get to meet new people you might have not met otherwise if it weren't for our interest in gaming. You don't have to be a gamer to be a part of esports. There are many different roles you can play. Each person is important to our team.
I'm Aiden Gums, and this is my first year on the West Esports team. This is our second year doing esports at the middle school level, and we had weekly practices and had a fall and spring tournament. In our first year, only 2 of our schools participated, West and Van Hoosen. In our second year, we had all 4 of our middle school teams participate. Here's Noah to tell you more about that.
Hi, I'm Noah. This is my first year on the Hart Middle School Esports team. On December 18th, over 90 students from our esports teams participated in our fall esports tournament held at Rochester University. The stands were filled with our teammates and family members. The place was buzzing with excitement, but we were having a great time. We were all cheering one another on. I love being able to play face-to-face with other teams and meet so many new people. I'm looking forward to the spring season, which will start in February.
I just want to thank all of our students for sharing about their experience with esports. They're the reason why we do this work every day. I also would like to mention how proud I am of all of our middle school esports coaches who dedicate their time for making this a positive and meaningful experience for our students. To close, we have a video highlighting our middle school esports program.
Much. Trustee Ennis had a question.
Yeah, I just was curious, how often do the students meet when they're, in season? And how many more tournament opportunities will they have coming up in the spring?
Yeah, so the students meet once a week at their schools, and then we offer a fall tournament at Rochester University and then a spring tournament. We are working with our technology department to allow for in-season play on our switches if we are able to connect them to our network. So there'll be more opportunity for them to compete against one another as well.
Well, I'll just say, we were talking, we wish this had been around when our kids were in school. But just great for the students who came out and for how well they presented, and also for just highlighting everything that comes along with it, that it isn't just sitting in front of a screen, but the strategic thinking and the teamwork and the collaboration, communication, personal growth, learning from mistakes, good sportsmanship. Just wonderful things that we want all of our kids to, gain those skills. So thank you.
Thank you all.
And next up, we have an opportunity to recognize our Adams High School girls golf team state champions.
How's everyone doing? My name's Shane Holler. I'm the athletic director at Adams High School. Appreciate you having us out tonight. We get the chance to honor our girls Division I state golf championship team for the 2023-2024 season. A state championship is the highest accomplishment a team can achieve in a season, and our girls are able to do just that. Congratulations to our elite Rochester Adams girls golf team, who earned not only this year, but this past year earning back-to-back Division I state championships in the MHSA division. These outstanding student athletes have demonstrated their strength, discipline, skill, and commitment to excellence over the course of their season. Athletes and coaches, at this time, when your name is called, please come forward to be honored. Lydia Mercado. Brianna Park. Hannah Wang. Aaron Yang. Peyton Sage. Elena Bailey. John V. Ramkar. Olivia Dance. Laura Liu. And Katie Fodale. Joining us as well, assistant coaches Bob Kedbelt. And Fran Sitzlitz. And lastly, our head coach, Jeff Kutzman. Congratulations, guys, on a heck of a year, and we can't wait to see what you guys do in the future. Thank you.
Congratulations to the team and to the coaches. Fantastic that you did it back-to-back. I hope we see you here next year for a three-peat.
We'll put it on the schedule.
Thank you. We're going to go into the hallway and we'll take a quick picture. Good, thank you.
I will also say that there are seats now up here towards the front. If anyone wants to move up at this time, please feel free to do so. We're going to go on to agenda item 6.0, which is where various communications that have been received are shared. Item 6.1 is communication received by the board. Secretary Gupta, would you like to give us an update?
Sure, Madam President. At this time, the board has received 20 communications through the Contact the Board feature on the website. Those are in the packet for reference. In addition, we received direct email to the full board from Julie Stalker, who there was an issue with the Contact the Board at that time that's been resolved, but wanted to make sure that her message is included in the packet, and that's on literacy. And then we also received emails from Jessica Opfer, Sean Warren, Diego Luna Garza, and Warren DeWitt regarding seeking recognition for the mountain biking club in board meetings.
Thank you. We're now moving on to agenda item 6.2, where we receive an update from our student representatives about what is happening in their high schools. And Lauren Cromie, would you like to start us off with from Adams?
Good evening, everyone. Adams has been very, very busy these past couple months, so I will get right into it, especially with our snow days. So thank you to the curriculum department. Our math teachers at Adams are utilizing their new whiteboards in our classrooms. Students are able to engage in opportunities to access problem solving and respond, collaborate, and get timely feedback using these whiteboards. On January 29th, grades 9 through 12 were presented with extremely powerful and potentially life-saving information thanks to the Fentanyl Fathers presentation. We want to thank the RCS district for bringing this to our school, and a special thanks to the Rochester Area Youth Council or Youth Assistance Program for sponsoring these presentations with Fentanyl Fathers. Our Adams Course Fair was on Tuesday, February 6th, 2024. Students in grades 9 through 11 were able to pick and attend 4 10-minute sessions to help them pick their electives for the next school year. During this time, us 12th graders had a senior meeting to discuss the upcoming senior events, as well as listen to some speakers from Oakland University and the University of Michigan Dearborn, who shared application tips and overall life success, whether it be college or career. February is Black History Month. To honor the achievements and roles played in the United States, our Social Justice Club has been highlighting a new African-American figure and their contributions during the month of February over the PA every morning. Moving on to our clubs, our Adams Bots robotics team presented to the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion District Committee on how their core values aligned with theirs. March 1st is their first competition, and we want to wish them good luck. DECA also had 93 students who completed in districts, more than ever before, and 53 students will be competing in states and down to Detroit. Good luck to them as well. As for athletics, a quick winter sports update. Our wrestling team brought home district championship this past week at Troy Athens. They compete in regionals this week at Chippewa Valley as well. Our cheer begins their district competition this Friday at Troy High School. And our ski teams compete in regionals this Tuesday at Pine Knob Ski Hill. So we want to wish a big good luck to all 3 of them. Moving ahead in the future, our Crosstown Showdown, an annual tradition at the Oakland University Arena, will take place this Friday, the 16th, with the girls' game at 5:30 and the boys at 7. This year, Adams is facing off against Stony Creek, and we couldn't be more excited. Student Council looks forward to our annual Charity Week. We have been tirelessly planning, ongoing scheduling, and organizing events to raise as much possible for Humble Design, our selected charity this year. We've been calling businesses for donations, planning in-school events, and even a parent night, along with planning the dance, which will be hosted at Adams this year as well, with 100% of sales going to Humble Design. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great night.
Thank you. Rochester High School, would you like to come up?
Hello and good evening, everyone. I know you're all used to seeing Katie Soriano here, but she is not here today, and I'll be subbing in for her. My name is Stephanie Bulot. She is not here because she is traveling back from Florida with the Rochester High School dance team, who just competed in the Dance Team Union National Championships. They took second in jazz in the medium varsity division, and their jazz performance won the Bold Award. They also took fourth in their pom performance in the medium varsity division as well. In addition, Zane Baig, Sakesh Saravan, and Dylan DeWitt earned awards from Representative John Jones's Congressional App Challenge. Zane and Sakesh created an application that provides veterans and military professionals with a consolidated space where they can find discounts available to veterans. Dylan created a diet and health app to help track calories. The Falcon Friendship Basketball game is coming up. It's on February 22nd in the Rochester High School main gym. This is an event where students with special needs are able to participate in a basketball game together that they are not usually able to participate in, and they all look forward to it greatly. We recently had a variety of performances at the recent MS-BoE Band and Orchestra event held at Rochester High School. Multiple Falcons earned first division ratings for their performances. We are currently in the process of scheduling for next year's courses in grades 9 through 11. In order to assist with this, we completed a course fair on January 31st when, during study hall, everyone was able to attend three roughly 20-minute long presentations where they were able to find out more information about scheduling for next year. The Rochester High School Alliance of Theatrical Students held performances of The Auditioners, which is their one-act play recently, on January 30th and 31st. It was an amazing performance that highlighted the special talents of our Falcons. In addition, our winter sports are winding down. Our postseason tournaments are just around the corner. We are excited for cheer, our basketball teams, swim and dive, wrestling, and hockey teams to see how they finish their seasons. Student Council is also working very hard recently. Coming up the same day as the Falcon Friendship Game, we have our second blood drive of the year to benefit the Red Cross. Mr. Rochester is coming up this year on Thursday, this coming Thursday. It is our annual pageant held for senior boys, and everyone looks forward to it, especially the senior class. We are also working hard, as Adams representative said, on a charity week as well. We are also, we all work together for Humble Design, our new charity. Thank you.
Thank you. And Stony Creek High School?
Hello all, my name is Anna Kano and I'm Stony Creek's brand new representative. So I'd like to begin by saying thank you to the Fentanyl Fathers who visited Stony Creek to warn our student body about the dangers of fentanyl. I'm sure I'm not the only one who is grateful for the lives that they are saving by spreading awareness in our community and helping to better the RCS district. In other news, many of Stony Creek's teams, clubs, and groups have been preparing for their respective big events. Our DECA team is preparing for their state-level competition coming up in early March, enhancing their business skills to advance to the national-level competition in California. Our student council is also anticipating their upcoming state competition, where they will connect with other schools also to support their treasurer, Kate Bradford, who will deliver a speech in hopes to win the Michigan Student Voice competition. Our Chinese club is in the process of creating a festival to celebrate the Lunar New Year, which happened this past Saturday. Not to mention the training that our basketball teams have been putting in this season, which will be shown off at the Crosstown Showdown this Friday, where the Cougars will go against Adams. Good luck. Our dance team finished off their season at Nationals and advanced to semifinals. Congrats, girls. Our brand new esports team has recently held their first practice. Can't wait to see what they're due. Outside of all of our great activities, Stony Creek has also been doing a lot of giving, as both Rotary Club and Spanish NHS recently wrapped up their respective drives to bring hats, socks, blankets, and gloves to keep everyone in the community warm. Also, the Stony Creek NHS and Spanish NHS are now creating Valentine's Day cards to give out. Our Stuco has also been preparing for our annual Charity Week, which will be in support of Humble Design, which will help support housing insecurity. All in all, Stony Creek has been working to improve the RCS community as a whole and is excited for what the rest of the year holds. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And last, we have the International Academy.
Good evening. I'm Tarek Taskin from the International Academy. First of all, we are excited for Spirit Week to prepare for our upcoming IA Winter Olympics. Today was Pajama Day. Tomorrow we will have White Lies shirts, followed by Iconic Duo, Teacher-Student Swap, and Class Colors for Olympics. Last week, we sent teams to compete in Ohio for a Science Olympiad Invitational event. Our Codebusters team placed first, and 2 other teams placed fourth. Several of our students also traveled to University of Chicago to compete in the Munich Model UN Conference this weekend. Delegates competed in committees with topics ranging from the establishment of NATO to 19th century Japan. We are currently running a Super Bowl food drive ending on February 15th, with 4 teams competing to donate the most food. Our student wing is currently helping eligible seniors register to vote. Finally, on March 1st, we will have our annual International Food Night from 6 to 8 p.m. Students can sign up to bring homemade dishes from around the world, and we would love to see you there. Thank you and have a great night.
Thank you. We're now moving on to citizens requesting placement on the agenda. We had 4 citizens who have requested placement this evening: Elizabeth Witten, Scott Heiniger, Jamie Hilliard, and Tara Donnelly. If anyone is interested in requesting placement in the future, there's a form under the Board of Education on our website, and those requests are due by noon 3 business days prior to our meeting, which would be a Wednesday for a Monday night meeting. Mrs. Witten, if you would please come forward.
Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Witten, and this is Sarah Helfridge, who is the regent of the Stony Creek chapter. I am the chair of the Daughters of the American Revolution Good Citizen Program for the Stony Creek chapter. The program, an optional scholarship contest, is intended to encourage and reward the qualities of good citizenship in our students. The qualifications of good citizenship are dependability, service, leadership, and patriotism. The program is open to all senior class students enrolled in accredited public or private secondary schools in good standing with their state boards of education. The following schools were invited to participate in the program: Rochester High, Adams, Stony Creek, ACE, Lutheran High Northwest, and Rochester Christian. Each invited school is to select a student that meets these above qualifications. The students we are here to recognize tonight are Regina Kerba of Rochester High and Alyssa Coe of Stony Creek. Thank you so much. These 2 students elected to participate in the scholarship portion of the program, which was optional, and we are looking forward to hearing the results of the state judging in the next few weeks. Congratulations, ladies.
Thank you.
In addition, tonight, the Stony Creek chapter has the pleasure to present to Josh Wrinkle, in recognition of Rochester High's proper use, correct display, and patriotic presentation of the flag of the United States of America. Please join me in congratulating Josh and the entire Falcon family.
Thank you very much.
So congratulations, Regina, Alyssa, and Rochester High. As a Rochester High mom, I can't say that I'm not just a tiny bit extra proud of Rochester High. And thank you to the board tonight and the community for this time. Thank you.
Thank you. And is Scott Heiniger here? And Scott will be followed by Jamie Hilliard.
Hello there, good evening. Before I get into my few notes, I just wanted to say the string quartet was tremendous. That's no easy thing. The arrangement was fantastic. It was great, and I love hearing from the reps from the high school. It's just positive energy. So anyway, glad to be here. I'm Scott Heiniger. I'm a resident of the district. My son, Paul, went all 13 years here. He's doing very well, second year at Michigan State. And I attended the informational meeting last week at West Middle School to find out more about the millage proposal and with John. And it was very informative. It helped my household kind of get a better understanding of what was going to happen with that, and it was able to allow our family to communicate with our neighbors and our people in our church and people in the community regarding the importance of the millage. So, so I just want, it's more of a rah-rah. I just want to feel like, I feel like the good word is out there. There's signs and emails and people talking, there's conversation. And I have kind of a bunch of facts and figures here, but there's no real need to spit them back to you. But the bottom line is I'm in support of the millage. We moved back here, living in Nashville for a while, to come specifically back to this school district. My wife grew up in the school district. I have a lot of friends and family that went here and did very well. It's a fantastic school district, and I just don't see why there shouldn't be any reason why the millage shouldn't pass. So again, it's more of just telling you that, you know, there are people out there that are for it, and hope that we continue to maintain that $24 million, and because I think without it, you go right in the dumper. So anyway, thank you, and I think we just want to keep celebrating the pride and excellence, that mantra of the school district. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Jamie Hilliard? Jamie here? Is Tara Donnelly here?
Good evening. My name is Tara Dada Donley, and I'm an RCS alumni, as well as many other things. I'd like to start off by thanking you for hosting the 2 town halls to answer questions about the upcoming millage. Certainly, I appreciated the opportunity to have a 2-way dialogue with Mr. Silveri, and I just wanted to share the main areas of concern that I'd shared with him with the rest of the board. My first area of concern was communication. You know, in addition to talking about the millage, we just spoke about some general issues and wanted to provide feedback. Many of the issues I feel between RCS and community members are due to poor communication, but lately I've seen quite a few emails now that are demonstrating an improvement in communicating details with the community. And I highlighted some of those examples for you. I think they are good examples to follow in future communications. For example, you know, the communications the night before inclement weather, you know, for snow days, you're always going to get somebody complaining about a snow day, but it really helps working parents to know the night before when it's coming, and then details like the 66 dirt roads out of 100 and some dirt roads are very icy. I mean, that helps explain a lot. So even if we don't always agree with your decisions, just understanding the logic or the details may help reduce some of the misinformation and misunderstandings in the community. The second item that I wanted to bring up, that I brought up with Mr. Silveri, is I'm concerned about losing teachers to other districts that offer competitive compensation packages, and based on teacher feedback, RCS has lower starting salaries, a higher number of salary schedule steps, and little to no raises over the past several contracts. In addition, to quote one teacher, safe schools and maintenance supplies shouldn't take the place of fair wages and good benefits. For example, the starting salary in RCS is $40,610, while Birmingham starts at $41,043, Waterford starts at $42,300, Troy starts at $43,650 in the old contract, Bloomfield Hills starts at $44,226, and Novi starts at $52,000 starting salary. The RCS salary step schedule used to be 11 steps in 2010, but increased to 21 steps in the sixth-year 2014 contract. It dropped from 21 steps to 18 steps in 2022, which is still higher than many other districts. For example, Birmingham has 13 steps, Waterford has 15 steps, Troy has 14 steps, and Avondale has 11 steps. So I'm going to wrap up by saying that questions about the budget and the invoices do matter, because people in the community want funds directed towards fair wages and benefits for teachers and repairing pre-K through 12 buildings with ongoing water leaks and mold, instead of diverting millions of dollars to law firms, PR firms, and pet projects. Thank you for listening.
All right, we are moving on to agenda item 6.4. This is the section where members of the board share communications that were shared directly with them and were not shared with the full board. Did any board member receive communications from the public? Trustee Blake?
Excuse me. I received one communication from today from Josh Raymond, thanking me for working with our attorneys on some proposed changes to our policies and addressing some of his concerns, and thanking Trustee Lecouy and I for working together with each other.
Trustee Lecouy?
Yep, I received that communication today from Joshua Raymond, who was thanking both Trustee Blake and I for working with the lawyers on some of the upcoming policy changes. I also received communication from Derek Monroe to express concern about enrollment decline and loss of funding for RCS, and to suggest preventative solutions which would also provide more opportunities for homeschoolers in our district. He contacted me again on February 6th to ask about excessive administrative costs.
Trustee Alsbach?
I received 2 thank you notes from teachers at Delta Kelly that I greatly appreciate.
Trustee Ennis?
I received a communication from Jane Carpenter thanking me for my board service, and a communication from Louis Reyes, the rep from Representative John James's office.
And I received an email from Jennifer Shields expressing condolences and appreciation, and one from Michelle Dembski offering to speak to the board regarding the paving of Snell. We are now moving on to our PTA Council update. If Jamie Rockcliffe is here to provide us an update.
Good evening. Jamie Rockcliffe, President of the Rochester Community PTA Council. Wanted to start off by sharing that in keeping with the mission of the National PTA, which is to make every child's potential a reality by engaging and empowering families and communities to advocate for all children, the PTA Council unanimously passed a resolution at its January 25th meeting endorsing the 2024 Rochester Community Schools non-homestead millage renewal proposal. We are encouraging all our members to vote, and more importantly, vote yes for our students and our teachers. Last week, the high schools held the third and final battle for Battle of the Books. Tomorrow, they will have their finale at Stony Creek, with several of this year's authors visiting virtually with our students. Our Green Schools teams are busy as usual. Currently, they are collecting old used socks for recycling, and next month, plans are to collect empty paper towel rolls, which are used by the Detroit Zoo in their animal habitats. They are also finalizing their applications for Green School certification. The goal this year is for all 20 of our PTA units to receive the highest rating of Evergreen. On March 4th, we will be holding our annual Founders Day celebration to honor our parent, student, and staff volunteers who have gone above and beyond this year. Over 70 members of our community will be honored that night. Additionally, our online auction will wrap up that night with the goal to raise $5,000 to fund our annual high school scholarships for RCS students. In March, our district reflection ceremony will honor the more than 200 students in kindergarten through 12th grade who rated first and second in their school competitions. At that event, we will also announce those who moved on to the state level competition and the results from the state level competition. Our health and wellness chairs at all the elementary schools are getting ready for the 4th grade health fairs. At these events, volunteers will lead students through 12 different stations covering a variety of health topics, including dental health, cardiac health, allergies, 911 and public safety, bike safety, and more. We are also partnering with the district to help support the Health and Safety Summit in April. Authors and April book clubs and book sales are kicking off at our elementary and middle schools soon, and we're excited to be bringing 4 amazing authors and illustrators again this year. Mika Song will be visiting our transitional kindergartners, and first graders. Kevin Sherry will be coming for 2nd and 3rd grade. Jessica Coury for 4th and 5th grade, and Steve Shanken for middle school. Tickets for the banquet evening with the authors will go on sale beginning tomorrow. In addition to all these council level events, each of our 20 school PTA and PTSAs are busy hosting events of their own. Dances, bingo nights, after school STEM activities, and so much more. Thank you.
Thank you. I just had a question. The Green Schools is collecting socks. Can they be single socks?
They can be single socks. They can be socks with holes. They are recycled into the raw materials to be reused.
Perfect. Thank you very much. All right, next we are moving on to our Special Education Parent Advisory Committee update, and Melissa Hoffman is here.
All right, thank you. Good evening. I'm Melissa Hoffman. I'm chair of the Special Education Parent Advisory Committee for Rochester Community Schools. Our last meeting was hosted virtually by Stony Creek High School on January 23rd due to a snow day. We were welcomed by Principal Brian Shelson and joined by Board Trustee Dr. Julie Alsbach. Mr. Shelson highlighted the emotional impairment program that is housed in their building as a point of pride, and Dr. Alsbach presented on the board's work on the district's strategic plan and superintendent search, and also reminded everyone of the upcoming non-homestead millage election on February 27th. Also, this meeting was the last for our Assistant Superintendent of Special Populations, Concetta Lewis, before we wished her well on her journey to Ann Arbor schools. We now have our former Special Ed Director, Ann Evans, back in the interim, and the PAC wishes to thank the district for recognizing the importance of the role and covering the opening immediately. There continues to be a shortage of special ed teachers in special education nationwide, and that is expected to grow without any end in sight. Many programs, such as Talent Together, are already in existence to support continuing education of staff to pursue degrees at little or no cost to them, but we as a district have not always actively participated. So a few months ago, the PAC approached special ed and HR about pursuing this option to field more staffing. And after some research and decisions by our HR department, it has now been formally sent to all paras and is being offered as an option for our paras to pursue continuing education to become special ed teachers. Full details can be provided by our HR department. We are very proud of this joint effort that we feel will not only grow our special ed staff, but shows faith and support in our existing team. Also, in the spirit of supporting our staff, as a mom of a special ed student of 9 years, since my son was 2.5, few people have been more important in our lives than our teachers. So as today marks the first day of our REA negotiations, the PAC wishes to lend our support wholeheartedly to all teachers as they work together to put our students first. Finally, some upcoming announcements. On March 13th at 6:30 at Rochester High School, we will have an IEP training led by the Michigan Alliance for Families, which will also be in collaboration with our administration. This allows families to get help from an outside perspective. The meeting will not be recorded or broadcast. All conversations are confidential. We will cover everything from how to ask for an IEP, the understanding the document, and dispute resolution. Finally, all PAC meetings are public. Parents of IEP or 504 students are encouraged to attend, as well as interested staff. Our next meeting will be February 28th at McGregor Elementary in the Media Center at 7 p.m., and we hope you join us. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Cheryl Heiniger will be providing an update from the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Parent Network.
Good evening. I'm Cheryl Heiniger. I'm with DEIPN on the leadership team. The Rochester Community Schools Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Parent Network was established to partner with RCS to train, educate, and support Rochester community in its efforts to enhance diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging for all of Rochester Community School students. DEIPN is led by a volunteer group of parents who just want the best for all of our RCS students. Everyone is welcome to our meetings as long as they follow the meeting norms, which are explained at the beginning of each meeting. Be very clear that we partner with RCS administration. We are not part of RCS administration. Our next meeting is tomorrow night, Wednesday, February 13, from 7 to 8:30 at Stony Creek High School in the Media Center. Our topic will be how caregivers can nurture their students to be a good ally. We will have several small group discussions and activities, as well as an educational component. All parents, educators, and caregivers are encouraged to attend. High school students are also welcome so that we may hear their voices and hear of their experiences in the district. In March, our topic will be world religions. We will have a panel discussion, learning and celebrating a variety of religions that exist in our local community, including Hindu, Sikh, Muslim, Jewish, and Christian. That meeting will be Wednesday, March 20th at West Middle School in the Media Center. As always, you can contact us at rcsdeipn@gmail.com or like us on Facebook at Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Parent Network _DEIPN. Thank you.
Agenda item 7.0 is the consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered routine in nature by the Board of Education and will be acted upon by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If any member of the board or any citizen requests discussion of an item, that item will be removed. Please note that the items removed will now be discussed separately under the consent agenda and will retain the same number. For instance, if item 7.1 was asked to be removed, we would vote on items 7.2 through 7.7, and then we would come back to 7.1 for a motion, discussion, and vote. Keep in mind that you may still request just one item on a report to be removed from the consent agenda. If this is the case, we would approve everything else, and the item removed from the report would receive a new number. In this case, it would be 7.7, but still under the consent agenda. Our consent agenda tonight consists of 7.1 current bills payable for January 1st, 2024 through January 31st, 2024 in the amount of $19,622,866.10. 7.2, the human resource recommendations. 7.3, the Board of Education closed meeting minutes from January 16, 2024. 7.4, the Board of Education regular meeting minutes from January 16, 2024. 7.5, the Board of Education work session minutes from January 29, 2024. And 7.6, the Oakland County School Board Association dinner meeting on March 6th for John Silveri, Michelle Butel, Barb Annis, and Julie Alsbach in the amount of $180. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented? Moved by Trustee Annis. Is there support by Trustee Alsbach? Any discussion here? Trustee Lakouie?
Please remove item 7.1.
All right. 7.1, we'll discuss that after the vote. Trustee Weaver?
I'd like to remove 7.2.
All of 7.2 or a specific item?
When I click on the attachment, it doesn't appear that the recommendations are laid out, so I'm not sure exactly which ones are which. So that's part of the reason I want it pulled out to get clarification.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, so at this point, we will be voting on items 7.3 through 7.6. All of those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's a 7-0 vote, and those 7.3 through 7.6 are approved. Now, is there a motion to approve the current bills payable for January 1st, 2024 through January 31st, 2024 in the amount of $19,622,866.10? Moved by Trustee Annis. Is there support? From Trustee Gupta. All right, and discussion on this. Trustee Lakouи?
All right, well, last meeting, we confirmed that this is a ceremonial approval, as these bills have already been paid. So abstaining from this vote or voting no on this vote doesn't actually change the fact that vendors were paid. I will be voting no on this item for two reasons. One is the district did not successfully deliver copies of the invoices that I wished to see from this month's bills payable. I had several emails going back since July, since last month when the new system was developed, but it wasn't rectified in time for this vote. The second reason is we know that our financial controls have been violated and our process is missing some important checks and balances, like a three-way match. So it's my duty to vote no until we're willing to solve the problems that exist. But rest assured, the vendors have all been paid and this doesn't actually hold anything up.
All right, is there any other discussion on this? Trustee Gupta?
I just want to say we were provided access to the invoices. I looked at all of them in the Google Drive that was shared with us to our RCS Gmail account.
Trustee Weaver?
So 2 points. So that appears to be one of the problems. That's maybe some people are getting access and some people aren't. We provided documentation that we were not able to search. We couldn't find the Collins and Blaha one specifically. All those examples were provided. So again, maybe some people are getting granted access that not everyone's getting granted. So, but to say that everyone had access to everything is just not an accurate statement. My specific question is, I would like to know this month how much we spent on SEL and DEI specifically.
Well, my guess is if you hadn't provided that previously, that.
So I've
we
been
don't have an
asking for
answer
that
to
information for over 100 days, so it should be well expected that I've been looking for the cost in which we spend under DEI and SEL to understand what the value add is. Again, let's not forget, we did appoint a position of DEI when no one could explain what the measurables are. So to say that I have not asked for
I'm
the
sorry,
data.
are you asking for measurables or are you asking for?
I'm asking for the data for this month of what was spent under SEL and DEI. And yes, I have asked for that for over 100 days.
Trustee Gupta?
That would constitute a request for a new report that doesn't currently exist, which you would need to make a motion for and get the majority of the board to
Point of order, Madam
to
President.
agree with you.
Point of order.
Trustee Weaver?
Obviously, our bills payable is spent to us. If our district does not understand and does not track how it is spent, that they know what is under DEI and SEL from a cost standpoint, they can respond and say that they don't know, but to claim that that's a new report is just absurd.
All right, at this point, we have a motion to approve the current bills payable. All those in favor, please say.
Madam President?
Trustee Lakoui?
I just wanted to get clarification about the conversation that took place. Does the district track DEI spending?
Well, I know it, I'm not sure if Mr. Silveri, if you have that answer. I know Mr. McDaniel is not here this evening because he's at the Rochester City Council meeting.
When we say, does the district track it? I mean, of course, we track all of our spending. I don't know if you're asking, can you be more specific?
Spending related to DEI and SEL.
Do we track it? I don't have a number for you, if that's what you're asking.
I don't expect you to have a number off the top of your head. I just mean, Trustee Weaver has been asking for to see what spending we've been doing related to DEI and SEL. So my question is, have we been tracking that? Because I'm wondering if that does constitute a new report, or if that's something that we actually already have been tracking, if we have a report about it.
I would assume it would constitute a new report, and we have to pull data together to give you a specific number.
So hold on, let me clarify my question. So you're saying right now that in our district, in no way do we currently track from a department standpoint what funds and programs are tied to DEI or SEL?
We certainly have all of that data.
Then it's not a new report.
Do we
That
have
is
it
not
in
a-
a report that we can provide to you as is? No, we do not.
Trustee Blake?
I'm just not sure how you would ever be able to provide that, because like social emotional learning is infused with everything we do. It's part of what the counselors do. It's part of what teachers do. Are you going to take a portion of their salary and allocate that? I just don't know how you would ever come up with the kind of report he's asking for.
So I'll clarify. Every spending we do should be classified under some kind of accounting standpoint. So again, if we're saying that's going to this or going to that, absolutely we should be able to designate that. Again, that is not uncommon for any profession to say, how is our spending done? What is the intended chief outgo? Specifically around DEI and SEL, we have programs. Again, we just got notified of one in March. In the most recent superintendent notes that we have something coming out in March that was presented to a subcommittee but not to the full board yet.
Trustee Weaver.
That specifically is around, would be tied to SEL or DEI. So we should be able to track specifically. Now, again, if we're saying in the end, we have no measurables for anything that we do related to DEI or SEL, that's a whole nother conversation to have. But to say that we cannot identify what costs are associated to those two specific titles and programs, that's really concerning.
You didn't hear me say that we could not do it. I said that we do not have a report that has all of that included.
Trustee Alsbach?
So, Mr. Silveri, I would ask you that my knowledge of school accounting is that things are generally put down by location code, and even if there is a DEI initiative, it would be spread against several location codes, possibly multiple funds, and even if there was a grant that had a particular object code that was dedicated to only DEI, again, that object code would be spread across multiple locations and funds. So therefore, you are tracking it on an object level code, but in order to generate the greater report, you would have to combine those locations and object codes. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, at this point.
I have another
we
question. I have a question. How do we?
Trustee Weaver, does it have to do with
yes.
these accounts
How do
payable?
how do we measure return on investment when it comes to DEI and SEL?
But that does not have to do with our current bills payable.
I assume some of this is going to DEI and SEL. I just don't know what, because no one can answer
That's
that
your
question.
assumption.
Well,
So-
because no one can answer the question, so we don't
Well, you
know.
stated
right
your
now-
question.
So I'm
Point of
asking
order.
specifically, what is the return on investment?
Excuse me. Right now, we have a vote on the floor for current bills payable for January 1st through January 31st in the amount of $19,622,866.10. All of those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Abstain.
I have a 5-1-1 vote. The motion passes and the current bills payable is approved. Next, we have the human resource recommendation report. I need a motion to approve the human resource recommendations. Do I have someone who will make that motion? Moved by Trustee Alsbach with support from Trustee Gupta. And then, Mr. Weaver, I believe you had a question on this?
Yes, and I appreciate the refreshing did have the report come up, so I'm able to see the specific ones. My question is around the technology specialist. I just want to understand how that fits into the larger plan for, obviously, our IT department is going through a lot of changes currently. Has been some feedback about the kind of the environment of that team, so I just want to kind of know where we stand from how this appointment plays into the larger plan for what we're doing with that department.
Just in general, it's filling a current vacancy. So there was a position that was vacated, so we rehired for it.
So, I mean, again, my question specifically around, is that all we're doing? Do we have any plans to hire other positions, or is this a standalone? I mean, what is our plan for the IT department in regards to this?
In regards to this position,
How does this play into the larger plan? Is there a larger plan?
the larger plan isn't part of the HR report.
I'm asking specifically how this one ties in. So you're saying that there is no larger plan, this is the only move on the IT department right now?
I'm not prepared to speak on larger plans for a department under the HR report.
I can speak to it.
That'd be great.
We had first made an effort to look at the possibility. I'll backtrack a little bit. I had indicated to the board that to whatever extent we were able to, it might be wise to find a way to fill the gap with that vacancy as well as another. With a new superintendent on the verge of being hired, it would be nice to have the new superintendent given the opportunity to look at the structure of administrative staff, the cabinet, how those positions are put together, their responsibilities, to see if there were any changes he or she may want to make, and to have a voice in hiring the long-term folks for those departments. In the interim, Ms. Fragamenti is overseeing the department from an instructional standpoint, but we're, now that we didn't have any luck in looking for a retiree, and we put the word out pretty far and wide. We used Oakland Schools, other resources, and just came up empty. So we've had further dialogue with internally and with Oakland Schools about options that may be available. I'm not prepared to share where we're going with that just yet, but I hope and expect to be able to do that in very short order.
So, I don't know, can you show you there? So we did look to find someone to fill in an interim basin like we did with Casetta Lewis's position?
Yes, we did.
Okay, and so we didn't find anybody there?
Correct.
When you say looking at what we can do, are you talking about with Oakland Schools that you're not willing to share? Because obviously I've reached out to you directly around Oakland Schools. You mentioned even in the communication that part of it was them helping us. But again, talking to IT people from other districts in our community, how the systems work, really, Oakland Schools can't really provide any actual assistance. So the question is Oakland Schools actually doing for us then, and what would we potentially looking for them to do for us, since again, they would have to have access to our whole system, which they don't currently have.
It'd be premature to share any details until we have things worked out. So we don't have a solution yet, but we're engaged in dialogue to come up with a solution to the problem.
Do you not think the board has a right to know what you're working on? This is a major, are you looking at offering up the solutions? I've asked you those questions already. Are we offering our services to Oakland Schools? Is that something you're pursuing?
What I've learned is that if I share a partial solution, it's a work in progress, things may change, that conversation can go very badly. So I'm not prepared to share that until we have it worked out.
All right, so at this point, we have a motion to approve the human resource recommendations as presented. All of those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that's a 7-0 vote, and the HR recommendations are approved. All right, agenda item 8.1 is a report from Vice President Annis on her attendance at the National School Board the National School Board Advocacy Institute Conference. Trustee Annis?
Thank you, Madam President. I was privileged and honored to represent our district at the 2024 National School Board Association's Advocacy Institute in Washington, D.C., an annual conference bringing together school board members nationwide to our nation's capital to advocate for public education students. The local perspective of a school board and its members is critical in any discussion of legislation that could impact local control and ensure that laws focus on the success of all students in public education. Our board, collectively and as individuals, must communicate our district's successes and challenges when educating all our students. This is why direct conversations with our legislators matter, because we are elected public officials directly tied to the community. We ensure the students we serve have the tools and resources they need to succeed. I spent 4 days in DC attending the NSBA conference sessions, a Hill Day to personally meet with elected officials while in DC, and an entire day meeting with education industry groups to discuss many of the asks we had for our legislators. And there's a few photos, but one of the side notes is I want to thank the Chief of Staff of Representative Lisa McLean, his name is Nick, for allowing a conversation to happen at the top of the Capitol Dome, because he gave myself and other board members from Oakland County a nice tour of that, which was just unbelievable. The following are some of the asks that our Michigan delegation had for our legislators. Full funding for the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA, which was passed in '75, and it was a federal promise and investment to fund 40% of every school district's cost to educate our differently abled students. This promise has yet to be met, and when doing so, it will impact all children in public education. For context, $9.2 million of our general fund dollars are used to supplement our special education costs in the 2022-23 school year. That's right, all children would benefit from full funding for IDEA if this was fulfilled, relieving our general fund dollars to backfill. RCS educates approximately 1,927 special education students, which is approximately 12% of our district's overall population, and it's the second largest special needs population here in Oakland County. I met and spoke with Representative John James to discuss the importance of Congress fulfilling its promise to fully fund IDEA and its impact on Rochester community schools, and share several personal stories about differently abled students educated in our district. I thank those parents who allowed me to share their students' stories. Stories matter and they're impactful. It should be noted that both Representative John James and Lisa McLean, as well as Senators Gary Peters and Debbie Stabenow, were co-sponsors of H.R. 4519 in 2023, which was the full funding for IDEA Act. I invited Rep. James and Representative McLean to visit our district to see firsthand what a local investment in special education looks like, with a tour of the John Schultz Educational Campus in the Special Education Adult Transition Program. This is only the first step in a continuing conversation with lawmakers to fully fund IDEA. So what's the second step? We now request a congressional hearing to get full funding for IDEA. A hearing would gather information and evaluate how 40% of the total investment of IDEA today would impact students through testimony and data gathering. If you're a parent or a community member who'd like to join this effort, please consider sending a personal email or calling our U.S. representatives, John James and Lisa McLean, and Senators Peters and Stabenow. The other issues that we talked about was protecting funding for at-risk students impacted by title funding. A House Appropriations Subcommittee plan includes cuts to education funding for the fiscal year 2024. And that proposed $14 billion cut in Title I funding is of particular concern because it represents an 80% reduction in federal dollars that goes towards public education students that fall under Title I designation. Title funding within the education budget should be protected and increased. These title funds allow our students to be properly supported, and increasing funds would free up local dollars to further support the general education of all of our students. We also discussed free and reduced lunch expansion. Michigan approved a bipartisan plan to offer every public school student free breakfast and lunch. Our state plan depends on continued federal support and funding to ensure the successful implementation of universal free meals for students. We urged Congress to fully fund universal free meals, recognizing the critical role they play in the health and well-being of our students. It's also essential to develop flexible policy changes that allow districts to meet the individual dietary needs of each student, because we know that one size doesn't fit all, and flexibility ensures every student can access nutritious meals. We also encouraged Congress to modify the annual free and reduced meal qualification requirements. Simplifying and streamlining these requirements can reduce administrative burdens and ensure more students benefit from the program. Additionally, we suggested allowing districts to capture household income information less frequently, making it easier for families to access the support they need and ensure that students receive the meals they need. Cybersecurity was also a hot topic. K-12 is considered a soft target. The increase of online attacks against our schools has become an increasingly common and more dangerous threat in recent years. Schools often rely on aging computer systems without the ability to implement best practices to defend against cybersecurity attacks. Many schools are vulnerable to ransomware attacks that can leave districts unable to conduct business and face significant financial liabilities. The frequency and severity of ransomware attacks against school districts leave the insurance industry questioning whether they can continue coverage against these attacks. Both schools and insurers alike are looking to Congress for a comprehensive plan to help protect schools from attacks against their networks. And finally, we wrapped up our 4 days in DC with some meetings, and there were several, which was arranged by Oakland Schools for a broader discussion with organizations and federal agencies that can help increase understanding of district-related issues and allow school board attendees to share their experiences. One particular organization which was really informative was the Consortium of School Networking to discuss specifically cybersecurity, digital equity, and AI in K-12 space. There is a PowerPoint, and I will be sharing this information with our board secretary that is attached to this update, which is quite informative. We also met with the Department of Agriculture to discuss healthy meals for all, universal meals, at the Education Department to discuss IDEA and cybersecurity and AI in K-12, and the Senate Agricultural Committee staff to also discuss healthy meals for all. And in addition to that information, the conferences, the sessions that I attended was regarding advocating for the improvement of reading outcomes for all students, and also a really fascinating talk by Dr. Temple Grandin, who is a huge advocate for autism awareness. She was incredible to hear her speak in person. And I am just very thankful that the district agreed to send me to this conference. It always is one that is so informative, and it's a great opportunity to make connections. And I hope that Representative McLean and James, as well as our 2 senators, will take me up on my offer to visit our district and see the great work that we're doing. Thank you.
Well, thank you for attending and representing us there. I appreciate that.
Oh yeah, there were a few pictures that I took that I wanted to share. This was the delegation from Oakland County. Michigan actually had the largest delegation at this conference, with over 100 representatives from various school districts within the state of Michigan, which I think is quite amazing. The next one is Senator Sabinow came to a breakfast, and we were able to thank her for her service as she is stepping down and from her years of service as our state senator. This was the view from the top of the Capitol and the great Capitol Dome tour that I got at the top. It was amazing, unbelievable. And this is Nick, Representative McLean's chief of staff. And so one thing you find when you're in DC, you could be in the halls of Congress, or you could be in the office of an elected representative or a congressperson, or you can be on top of the Capitol Dome. But wherever you can, you talk about the issue that's important to you. So I was trying to explain to him, he needs to get his boss to come to our district. And then, of course, we met with Representative James, and that is Birgit. She is also a school board trustee from Lake Orion. Thank you.
Thank you again. All right, we are now moving on to new business. Item 9.1 is construction bid awards for the installation of vertical unit vent replacements at North Hill, Meadowbrook, and Ace, and flooring at North Hill. Mr. Murphy, I believe you're filling in for Mr. McDaniel this evening while he is sharing information about the non-homestead millage at the Rochester City Council meeting.
Yep, thank you. On behalf of Mr. McDaniel, tonight we have 2 recommendations for your approval. The first funding request is for vertical unit ventilator replacements, which provide heating, cooling, ventilation, and air condition for classrooms. Scope of this work includes the installation of VUVs that are to be installed at North Hill, Meadowbrook Elementary, and the John Schultz Educational Campus. The purchase of the equipment was previously approved at the December 11, 2023 Board of Education meeting. The project will be completed during the summer recess. On December 19, 2023, the district advertised for an RFP for the VUV project in the local publication, the Rochester Post, and posted RFP documents on the purchasing pages of the district's website, Sigma, and BidNet Direct. The district received 11 responses for 5 categories of construction trade on the due date. Responses were evaluated by the district's Director of Capital Projects and a team from Frank Rewald and Son Incorporated. All of the accepted bids were found to be initially compliant with required specifications per the detail in the bid summary. The bids were analyzed on bid content, completeness, inclusion of required submittals, and compliance with required specifications. Interviews and evaluations were conducted according to the attached documentation. The source of funding is the sinking fund, and based on this information, we recommend the Board of Education award the following contracts to Connolly Masonry for the masonry in the amount of $177,400. Kapala Heating and Air Conditioning for Meadowbrook and Schultz Mechanical Work in the amount of $244,975. Kapala Heating and Air Conditioning for mechanical work at North Hill in the amount of $274,040. Electrics Company Incorporated for electrical work at Meadowbrook and Schultz in the amount of $16,224. Electrics Company Incorporated for the electrical work at North Hill in the amount of $11,400. JMK Engineering Incorporated for owner consultant commissioning in the amount of $48,000. And Enviro Air Incorporated for testing and balancing in the amount of $32,500 for a total of $804,539. For that contract sum, we recommend the Board of Education approve the allowances and contract manager fees as detailed in the attached analysis in the amount of $199,564 for a total current project cost for February 12, 2024 in the amount of $1,004,103 and a total for all project costs, including previously awarded contracts, totaling $1.37 million in the total amount of $2.37 million rounded. The second recommendation for tonight is for the North Hill Elementary flooring project. The scope of this project is the replacement of flooring in classrooms, offices, the staff lounge, and main corridors. Also included as part of the scope is the painting of the areas where new flooring is being installed, new countertops in the classrooms, bottle filling stations in the corridors, and an epoxy floor coating in the large main restrooms. On January 16, 2024, the district advertised an RFP for the North Hill flooring project in the local publication, the Rochester Post, and posted RFP documents on the purchasing pages of the district's website, Sigma, and BidNet Direct. The district received 25 responses for 7 categories of construction trade. Bids were reviewed and evaluated by a team from Frank Rewald and Son Incorporated and the district's Director of Capital Projects. All of the accepted bids were found to be initially compliant with the required specifications per the detail in the bid summary. The bids were analyzed on bid content, completeness, inclusion of required submittals, and compliance with required specifications. Interviews and evaluations were conducted according to the attached documentation and recommendations submitted the evaluation team. The source of funding is the sinking fund. Based on this information, we recommend the Board of Education award the following contracts to Blue Star Incorporated for selective demolition in the amount of $108,800. BJ Construction Incorporated for carpentry in the amount of $88,090. Eldorado Tile and Marble Company for hard tile in the amount of $2,600. Mastercraft Floors for carpet and resilient flooring in the amount of $340,304. Papa's Painting LLC for painting in the amount of $74,950. Mastercraft Floors for resinous flooring in the amount of $24,392. SC Kalchik Mechanical Incorporated for plumbing in the amount of $59,940 for a contract sum of $699,076, and we recommend that the board approve the allowances and CM fees as detailed in the attached analysis in the amount of $191,758 for a total of current project cost for February 12, 2024 in the amount of $890,834. And the Director of Capital Projects and Facilities, Pete Musio, is here if you have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, Trustee Alsbach.
I do have a question about the flooring, and this is from, I'm wondering if any of these contractors or any of this material is the same thing that was installed in the Fine Arts Wing over the summer at Stony Creek High School. Have you recently looked at the condition of that flooring? Because it's coming up.
Yes, yeah, we're in negotiations with the manufacturer. We think there was a defect, so we're working with them to get it replaced.
So you think the material was defective, not the installation?
Correct.
Or it wasn't the choice of wrong material or anything like
Correct.
that?
Yeah, because that flooring we've been using since 2017. It's in every building in the district, so it's in 20-some buildings.
Yeah, it looks like the same stuff that's right behind there, so. So we think that was a default material?
Yeah, that's what we're under the impression with right now, and that's what we're working. So I've hired an engineering company to come in and do an analysis of it. The flooring manufacturer's done their analysis of it, but they're not saying it was them, so I got people pointing fingers at each other, so that's why I hired an engineering company to do a forensic analysis of all the installation. Because the same contractors installed it all over the district before, so.
So I'm hearing you say you're doing an analysis of it right now.
Correct.
And you're having some finger pointing.
Well, yeah, because the manufacturer hasn't admitted any culpability to it at all. They're trying to point that it was the installation, but the same contractors installed other floors across the district multiple times. Same product, same glue, same adhesive, everything. Yeah.
Yeah, because the finish is ripping off in one spot, the corners are curling up, and I know.
Yeah, we had a walk.
There's even a spot at the dance floor that the partial tile is popped right out.
Yeah, we had a walkthrough back in late September with Brian and the manufacturer and the installer back then. So, yeah, we were aware of it back then, shortly after installation happened.
So if the investigation turns out that it isn't the material, it could be the installation, and we're using the same people again?
It could be. It's not the same company that's doing this one, no. It's the
Okay.
same product, but
Okay.
not the same, it's not the same company doing the installation.
All right.
Yeah.
Trustee Ennis.
So along those lines, if it's the same product, what kind of warranty comes with the installation in this particular instance?
Typically it comes with this contract, it comes with a 5-year warranty, installation warranty. And to your point, the reason why I think it's a material problem, because if you look through there, what we did with that installation is there's some blue tiles inset randomly to give it a pop of color in there. Those aren't coming up. It's the same product. One's made in Arkansas, or actually Alabama, other one's made in Japan. And even the installers are noticing that there was difference with the shipment and stuff like that. So yeah, we think it's a material problem. Because the blue tiles that are in that corridor, if you go, you need a chisel to get them up.
Yeah, the Fine Arts Wing, where I spent a lot of time, doesn't have the blue tiles in it.
Yeah,
It
but if you
just
go to the
has gray
athletic one,
planks.
if you go to the athletic one, it has blue tiles in it. Same product, just in a color.
Okay.
And, yeah, so that's how we know.
Trustee Weaver.
So just a couple of follow-up questions on what you said. So you said it wasn't you don't think it's an installation problem because we've used the same installers. So my one question is then why aren't we using those installers this time? Because in a case like that, if we're going to try and argue that it's the material and then we go and make a change not to use the same installers, again, if this is going to become some kind of debate or ends up in court to try and get cost, that doesn't bode well to say, hey, it wasn't an installation problem because we use the same installers all the time, but hey, this next time we're going to use different installers. So my first question is, why are we using different installers? And then the second one is, how much is this costing us from a standpoint to do the investigation and try and figure out at some point, are we keeping track of whether that cost is going to at some point outweigh just doing the work over?
Yeah, so good questions. The reason why we're not using that same vendor on this project is because they weren't the low bidder. They were, I think, third. They were the third bidder. But they just recently installed the same flooring product at Adams and Rochester High for the senior seating area project. They were low on that, and I don't have any problems there. Same product. So So that's why I think it's not an installation problem, but as far as the cost to do whatever cost we incur, so I'm tracking all those costs, so whatever, if it ends up being either the installer's fault or the manufacturer's fault, I would recoup those costs. Yeah, it's not costs that the district should incur at all. Yeah, so. Thank you. Yep, no problem.
Trustee Lekui?
So I know Frank Rewald and Sauls is a reliable company and they perform well. And maybe they're the best option we have, but I'm wondering if an analysis could be helpful. Would it be possible for RCS to save money on some of the construction manager fees if we were to hire our own project managers? Because I noticed that the construction manager fees for this project alone was about $90,000. So I'm just wondering if annually we might be able to save if we hired our own people.
Yeah, typically that's usually not how it's done, to have that expertise to do it. They do it all the time. And the monies you see they're allocated are allowances, so they only bill on what the actual costs are. So most of the times they come in under budget with their staffing costs, and they return some of those funds. They project it on a worst case scenario as a projection of possible fees. So, and their fees are very reasonable. When we did the RFP for the sinking fund, their reimbursable rates were the most favorable, and then also their fee was the most favorable. They're 1.5%. The next bidder was at 2.3, and then there was 3 point something. So their fees and their charge rates are very reasonable.
Okay. I guess I wonder how much that generally costs, like over the course of a year, if you just look at the construction manager fee by itself, about how much we pay them over the course of a year to do that work.
I don't know, I could figure it out. It doesn't take that long to figure it out. And each project, once we close out the projects, I know what those costs are. But that's typically how it's done. The construction manager, all the school districts, that's how they do it. I came from hospitals, that's how we did it. We hire construction managers to manage the whole construction process. Yeah.
Okay. Also, we talked at prior meetings about that you have a master plan that addresses building maintenance. Wondering if you'd be able to send that out so we can see
The sinking fund, yeah, I shared it with Matt. Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
I
The
gave him
board
some
hasn't
extra
received it yet.
copies. Oh, you haven't? Okay.
I can speak to that. So it is, actually took a picture. I didn't have time to send it today. I just wanted you to see it. It's large, it's very thick. The font is very tiny. There's a ton of information in there. We tried to capture it electronically to be able to forward it. You just can't do it. The font is too small. It's just illegible when you try to do it electronically. I don't know yet, or we don't know yet, if there's another way to kind of wrestle that down and find a way to get it concise enough to be able to convey it electronically. We would like to. If nothing else, I've got a copy in my office. It's expensive to reproduce. I don't know exactly what the cost is, but I know that it is.
Also, we don't have an electronic copy of this. It's a.
I have electronic. I have the Excel spreadsheets and all that.
That's what we were talking about.
That makes up that. Yeah, it's
Right.
printed out into PDF. It was imported as a PDF format, but it is an Excel spreadsheet.
Is
there we
that
go.
what you're
That
talking
sounds-
about legible then? What I received from Matt wasn't.
Sure. Yeah. You can. Yeah.
Oh.
I have the Excel spreadsheets that you can. But it's just it's easier to see it in the book format because it's the way it's tabbed. Because the way we priced it out, it's by building per 10 years, and then also per year by building. So it's sorted two different ways, and it's sorted like total.
So Pete, if you can send that to me, I can forward that to the board, but if it's easier to see it in the bound format,
Yeah.
I've got that, I can make that accessible to you as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. No problem.
I guess I wanted to follow up on the question about, the consulting fees, and do we have just one individual, or do they pull knowledge and from all sorts of individuals at Frank Rewald? She was asking about us hiring an individual to potentially fill that role, but I was just curious whether we just have one person or if it's really like a team over there that we're utilizing the knowledge of.
Well, right now we have one main project manager assigned to us that's managing all the projects from a project management standpoint. Then there's a project engineer, there's their estimating group that does all the estimating, does all the stuff, and then the project engineer helps with all the paperwork. then they have.
So it's a
their-
whole team that's rolled
There's a
into
whole
that-
team because
that fee
there's our
piece of it.
accounting, they handle all the, pay all the invoices, they receive all the invoices, they get all the waiver of liens and all the documentation to process their application for payment, that, before they even pass it on to us.
So it's not as easy as just hiring one person to do the whole thing?
Yeah,
Okay.
no, because it's their whole accounting system too, that they track the costs, they track the change orders and all that stuff, yeah. It's a whole system that they provide. It's construction management services is what we're paying for, not just for a project manager.
Okay,
I
thank you.
ask because I know someone who works in a public education institution as head of the procurement
Okay.
department, and this person thought that was a really good question to ask. He was asking, why are you always contracting this out at such premium rates to Frank Rewald and Sons? What are you guys doing over there?
Yeah.
So I thought I would check and just see
Yeah,
if it was worth
Yeah,
taking a look at that.
It's not uncommon because most of the schools are either done by Rewald, McCarthy, Barton Mallow, Clark Construction, Chrisman. There's a lot of construction management firms that do perform this type of service.
Yes, and the person I talked to said, we've had Frank Rewald and Sons, yes, they do great work, but it was just the fact that the construction manager fees are so high for the projects that this person thought there might be a different way to do it, and maybe it's the strategic planning workshops or something. I'm trying to think outside the
Yeah.
box for what are some different ways
Right.
we can look into
Yeah, some
allocating money.
districts, that's the nice thing about this district is that, they hire me to manage it from the owner's side. A lot of them hire Plant Moran. So the Plant Moran becomes the owner's rep, and they're dealing with the construction manager because the owner doesn't have the expertise in construction background to manage all that, navigate all the change orders and stuff. So Plant Moran, they do management services, program management services.
I had one more question for you. It's kind of a two-parter, I guess, on the installation piece of the vertical unit vents. I just noticed the wide range of quotes for, or proposals for both the masonry and the mechanical.
Yeah.
Especially the mechanical, that's more than $500,000 difference.
Yeah.
I mean, it just concerns me, right, that
Yeah.
did someone not know what they were bidding on?
When that price that you see, the 700-some thousand, I'm just going off the top of my
Yeah.
head, 700-some thousand from, is it Goyette? I
Yep.
think it was. That's for both bid packages. The way Rewald did it, they broke it up. They didn't think one company could do all of it, was their thinking, so that's why, so they broke it up into different bid packages. So Goyette gave the total price, so that's for all the schools.
But even with that, it's right, it's
It's
400 versus
still
700.
400 versus 700, but yeah, we sat, I don't know, sometimes they're busy, and if they want to get a project, they just price it accordingly to say, hey, I'm going to make it worth my while to if I get the project. So they just, give a high number.
And the same thing with the masonry. I guess I just kind of assume masonry is masonry, and maybe it's not, but.
Yes, some of them see more into it. Conley Masonry is a non-union masonry. We've used them on several projects, so could be because they're, pay a little bit less rate, so they're a non-union mason, so that could do
Okay.
it. But like I said, Conley's done a number of the projects, so they probably know the process. I don't know, the other mason might have read more into it than there was. Yeah.
Trustee Weaver?
Yeah, so I just actually want to follow up on Trustee Lecui's point. I think it would be worth looking at it from a strategic plan standpoint of taking exactly what the cost is for the management that we get from Rewall, and then build a business case of what if we wanted to bring that internally into a department and have the facilities department run it that way. Not only to the point of knowing public sectors are looking, private sectors, public sectors are looking at it that way, but even coming from the private sector, again, in a plant, you have a facilities person that manages that, that runs it. Obviously, we contract out to a lot of the same contractors. We use the Barton Mallows, we use them. But again, just thinking from a business case standpoint, so to the point, it's not as simple as hiring maybe one person, but what does a properly staffed facilities department look like if we want to achieve that goal and see if we can't do it for less costs and build that business case? I think from a strategic plan standpoint, that would be a fundamental difference because, again, I think many people have voiced a concern of is our spending in the right spots and where are we doing it? And a lot of this outsourcing to third parties, lawyers, PR firms, tend to look very, very non-value added, that we probably could do it in-house at a cheaper case. I think we just need to look at it from a business case standpoint. So I think that would be a great opportunity as we look through how do we make our central office leaner from a cost standpoint so we can shift more resources to our classrooms. So I think that'd be a great opportunity.
Okay, no problem. I can tell you that the amount of project management time that we get charged is not like a full-time project manager. So if we were to hire somebody full-time, so the project manager works on our projects. He works in a couple other districts and other projects. So it's not like we're hiring a full-time thing. So the point is, it's more cost than just the project management. It's the back office. It's collecting all the invoices. So there's a lot of accounting work to the receiving the bills, making sure they're getting paid, cutting the checks to the vendors and stuff like that. So there is a burden and a cost to do all that. So it's just something to keep in mind. Like I said, this is a very common practice. It's done all over all the school districts. If there was a better way, like I said, we bid it out, and the way it's bid now, they had the most favorable reimbursable rates, the lowest fee. So.
All right, so right now we
Madam
have,
President?
oh, I'm sorry, Trustee Alspach?
If we're formally requesting a business case, we would need the majority of the board to agree on creating a new report, right?
Right, it would,
Okay. Just clarifying question.
so at this point,
Well,
on
I
the
actually
floor, we
suggested
have
it be
the,
done through the strategic plan, which is all done behind the scenes. Anyone can bring up whatever they want behind for that. So that's actually what I recommended, was using the strategic plan to look at it.
okay, so at this point, we have a motion on the floor to approve the 2 construction bid awards as presented. I don't think I took a motion on this, so is there a motion to approve those 2? Moved by Trustee Blake, support by Trustee Annis. All right, we've had a discussion. All of those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
That's a 6-0-1 vote, and the motion passes, and those bid awards are approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, agenda item 9.2 is the second reading of proposed policy changes. We had the first reading at our last meeting, and during that meeting, there were some questions about the wording of some of the items. Taking those comments into account, there have been some updates to the proposed policies. Tonight, we have our second reading and vote on the proposed changes. Mr. Murphy, I'll turn
President,
this over to you.
Point over, I have a question before we
Yeah,
start.
Trustee Weaver?
How can we have a second reading of something that's completely different than the first reading?
Well, I don't know that it's completely different. It took into account, and Mr. Murphy can address this as well. There are options of how we could proceed with this. I think our attorneys have indicated that we can either go as this with a first and second reading, taking into consideration the fact that input was received and it's been updated. The other option is that we could read this, if we want to read this as a first reading and vote to not have a second reading. That's an option as well, and then vote on the items. So we can do it either way.
So I guess I'm just trying to clarify. So either way, we're just finding a way to work around that we're reading a second policy that's completely different than the first policy.
I don't think it's completely
Have you read
different,
it?
but I guess,
It's
yes.
substantially different.
Okay, so obviously there's disagreement in that, but yes, we have multiple options based on attorney input.
Which I would think the point of a first and second reading is that you're reading the same thing and everyone has an understanding of it. I'm just asking, again, this is all done behind closed doors.
Trustee Blake?
I don't know, I assumed that Mr. Murphy was going to address this first, second reading thing, and he hasn't gotten to talk yet.
Right.
But, all right, so go ahead and address.
Sure, thank you, and thank you to Pete for being here and answering those questions I'm completely unable to answer, so thank you, Pete. So 9.2 is a second reading of proposed policy changes. There's a little bit of carryover in my mini summary here that President Butel just shared, but I'm going to read it in its entirety. Last month, a first reading of proposed changes to RCS Policy 3300 was introduced. Both during the board meeting and following the meeting, specific questions were raised relative to the board surrendering authority to determine curriculum by adopting the recommended changes. As a result of these questions, Superintendent's Policy and Curriculum Committee members, Trustee Blake and Trustee LaCouey, inquired with Attorney Mr. Sutton for an opinion on those concerns. As a result, a memo was received and is also included in your packet this evening from Mr. Sutton providing some statutory background and opinion, as well as providing some potential alternative language for both the policy and the corresponding administrative regulations. The possible alternative language was discussed at an SPCC meeting on February 2nd, 2024. The committee recommended adopting the alternative language as follows. So for Board Policy 3307, we'll now read, subject to the limitations set forth herein through policy or regulation, the Board of Education delegates to the superintendent authority to determine teacher placement or the existence of a teacher vacancy, and to offer recommendations regarding personnel or program reductions to the Board of Education, which retains ultimate authority on the decision to implement a personnel or program reduction. Also included as a courtesy was the administrative regulations which correspond to that adjusted policy, which would now read, the superintendent has authority to conduct a staffing reduction subject to the approval of the Board of Education. And as far as program reduction, the superintendent has the authority to conduct a program reduction subject to the approval of the Board of Education. No other specific concerns were communicated between the first reading last month and today. When asked on the process needed to adopt the alternative policy language alongside all previously unedited changes, Mr. Sutton's legal opinion was that we would be okay to either adopt the changes with the new alternative language and they would take immediate effect, or if it was the will of the board, a process could occur which would involve waiving a first reading on the alternative language only, which would then proceed to a final reading on all changes, and if passed, all changes could still take immediate effect. I'll note that historically, when there have been minor changes between a first reading and a second reading, at least in recent memory and what we could find, the first option was what we've done. I don't think I found any instances of the process of waiving one reading. Usually it was just adopted as amended. So the recommendation this evening is to approve the proposed changes to RCS Policy 3300, with the only edits being inclusive of the alternative language in Board Policy 3307 as outlined above. Thank you.
Trustee Blake?
Yeah, so that accurately, at least to me, tells what happened or the way that this proceeded. I know I spoke on this at the last meeting. We just learned of these concerns as we were coming into the meeting. So we did have a couple of follow-up meetings. We did end up changing things. I know that Mr. Sutton said, and this is his area, it's not my area that I specialize in. I know he said we could consider this as a second reading because of the minor changes. I feel like it would be, to be safe, maybe we would vote to waive a second reading also, so we could have both. I just would hate to have it not adopted properly, because we have a timeline. It has to be, I believe, adopted by, is it today, tomorrow, right? There's a statutory. I'm sorry?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Murphy, but that's only for the para policies. That's not necessarily for program policies. Is that correct?
Yeah, but these changes all relate to changes in the law. That's why they were specifically brought forth at this time. So absent of a final approval this evening, any changes to these would have to fall under the collective bargaining process, which they may anyway at some point. But our then default language would be our current language, which does not adhere to the current law.
And a reminder that we are just voting, it's just policy 3300, correct? Is that right?
Correct, yeah, you're not voting on the administrative regulations. So the 3300, and the only edits are to one paragraph of that policy.
Correct. All right, so any discussion around whether we want to make a motion to waive a second reading or just vote on a motion to approve policy 3300? Trustee Weaver?
Yep. if I could, before you go, it might be nuanced, but my understanding was what you'd be waiving would be the first reading of the edited language, because the first reading of 95% of all of this is not under dispute. So my understanding, I hope I'm remembering this correctly, is that you'd be waiving the first reading of new language, so all of it would essentially be a second reading this evening for immediate effect.
So I'm just going to want to highlight, again, I actually think the end product is actually much better. I think the language is much better. But again, yes, I'm challenging the process and how we got here. This came to the board table, and no one had seen the language. No one had read it. No one knew really what it was supposed to do. And so it's just the integrity of the process in which we're following. And again, I get it. Everyone, this goes right back to the conversation we were just having of the relying on outside sources. Everyone's just, well, Kevin Sutton said it's okay, so it must be okay. I mean, that's
All right,
essentially what came.
Trustee Weaver, I guess
I'm addressing specifically my concerns with the process
But I want
that
to
led
correct
this.
your misstatement. So I believe that it did go to the SPCC committee prior to coming to the board, and it was sent to the board. It wasn't like you received it at the meeting, you received it in the board packet. So I just want to make sure that we're stating clear facts, because the way you mentioned it sounded like no one had had any input at all. And
As
hadn't
was said
seen it
at
prior
that
to
board
voting
meeting,
on
which you
it.
are incorrect, it was stated clearly that no, the language was not brought up in the committee. It was not discussed at all in the committee.
Trustee
Madam
LaCouey.
President, I think he's talking about the last board meeting when the SPCC did not get a chance to read the document at our SPCC before that January meeting. He's not talking about today. We've had a chance to review this language before today, but he's saying when it was the first reading in January, that's when we weren't privy to that
If I recall
document.
correctly, it was sent Wednesday the week before, which was what the board changed this year to get information in advance. So if there were issues, questions could be posed, and we could be prepared to answer them at a board meeting. No questions were received between that Wednesday and the board meeting.
So I'm going to finish my comment. So yes, at the board meeting, the language was questioned. We saw it. It was questioned at the meeting. So again, we want to play semantics, whether it wasn't questioned from Wednesday to the meeting. It was questioned at the meeting when we became aware of it, when we read it. That does not change the fact that the committee in which is supposed to be kind of the driving force behind all of this never reviewed the language, brought it to the board table, and what were very straightforward and simple questions about it could not be answered. And again, I just put that back on. It's because the default position just was, well, if Kevin Sutton provided it, it must be good enough. In which, in this case, it just wasn't. So that's where, again, I'm just challenging the process. This is where we are losing credibility in ultimately what comes to our table. Again, I can't wait to see what the full policy package comes to the board table. But so yes, this process to get to this point is just one that we cannot keep repeating, because it just undermines credibility when stuff comes to the board table. And even here, we're having people more concerned about trying to play CYA when the facts are what they are. No one in the committee read it. No one went over it because Kevin Sutton must not have felt it was necessary.
Trustee Blake.
Just to clarify how this came about, this had to be voted on. So we had an SPCC meeting that was an unplanned meeting. We were told that we needed to be in this meeting because the legislature adjourned early. So the effective date of these statutory changes got moved earlier, and people weren't expecting this to have to happen so quickly. So we did have a Zoom meeting. That was not an in-person meeting. And yes, we didn't have the document before that meeting, but it was talked about during that meeting, and then it went forward to a board meeting. That's the board meeting where these concerns were first raised. I will admit that there were things we didn't know about, or things that didn't sink in about that. But when somebody raised it, then we went forward with it. But I mean, so what's the point at this point? We've been through the first reading. We've changed it to address any concerns. We either are having a second reading or waiving second reading, which is what I would prefer. So where are we at now?
Okay, so what I'm hearing is I would like to then, does someone have a motion to waive a first reading of the new language in policy 3300? So that is moved by Trustee Annis. Is there support for that? Trustee Blake. All right, is there any more discussion on that piece of it?
Madam President.
yet.
Are you asking me if there's a discussion on waiving the reading? Because I have a question on the actual policy.
This is on waiving the first reading.
Then I'll hold my comment.
Okay. Trustee Lakui?
I'll comment to say that I am comfortable waiving the first reading for this reason, because we've been over the explanation for why we would do it. About most of this is exactly what we read in January, and I will concede that in January, that situation really could have been handled a lot better, and we were poorly prepared going into that scenario. However, at this time, we're much better prepared. We've had a chance to look everything over and ask our questions. And I am grateful to Miller Johnson for the changes that they made. They made changes that much more clearly define the role of the board and the superintendent in a way that I'm comfortable with. And I think that we have an improved policy because of it. So for that reason, I would go about doing this to make sure that we're going about it in the proper way now. Provided that we did fully explain this to the community so they understand how we came to this decision.
All right. So we have a motion to waive a first reading of the new language. All of those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's a 7-0 vote. Okay, so now I need a motion to approve policy 3300 as presented. Moved by trustee Annis. Is there support? By trustee Blake. Okay, any additional discussion on here? I'm sorry, trustee Alsbach.
So I had asked this question earlier, and and my question is, if you look at, we received this in two different documents, and if you look at the memo per policies that is dated January 11th, 2024, under the proposed language for recommended policy update, my question originally was, why does this say ineffective teachers? And it says, teachers will receive a rating as prescribed by law, and after July 1, those rating terms changes. And the next sentence says that any teacher rated less than effective on an end-of-year evaluation will be placed on an individual development plan or an IDP. So I am on the top of page 4, I believe. If you look at, it says, the bottom of page 3 is recommended policy updates, and there is a performance evaluation paragraph, and at the top of the next page, the third paragraph starts off with in bold, ineffective teachers. And I know I had originally asked, why are we using language that will be outdated? And Mr. Sutton's original answer was, we're not. We're using the new terms, and there are some places. But I still am concerned about this clause because our new ratings will be effective, developing, and need support. You can correct me if I'm wrong on those three. So under the language that I'm specifically reading here, we're on a 3-point scale, and only the top is considered effective. So 2/3 of the scale will put people on IDPs. Do I have that wrong?
You had me to the last part. Could you describe why that is again?
It says, and again, maybe I'm reading this wrong, any teacher that is rated less than effective, and your new scale is effective, needs support, or developing, and needs support. So your bottom two people, your bottom two rankings, are now going to need IDPs. So I was just concerned about why this is using ineffective and why we would be putting that level of rating on an IDP automatically. So my question is, is the intent to update this language before the July 1 changes, or is your intention to operate that way?
I think that Kevin talked about that as of today, those are still the categories, and if they're changing later, this will be changed later.
Well, and what he had said is, as of today, those are the categories, and what we've done is we've incorporated both of the language. We've incorporated the needing support and the ineffective language, and in most cases there have, but in this case, I don't see it here. But you're right, in most cases, he's using old and new language.
Yes, and also in reality, this will be a topic negotiated So there will be something probably edited one way or the other post that process coming back to the board for approval. I do think reading it, it tends to try to do both, is my interpretation. Keeping current language because it's going to take immediate effect while sort of hedging and bringing in some of the new language. Could that language stay there to the end of next year? It could not. Because read to the letter of it, you're correct that the two bottom would fall under that category. However, for this spring, that would still be accurate language. So the changes you're making right now will carry through the evaluation cycle for this year until July 1.
So then you're saying you would address the new language in negotiations?
Or it would be updated
I'm making an
come for July
assumption here,
1st.
but my assumption here is that it will be addressed during negotiations, yes.
And if not, it would be updated prior to,
It
or
would
like
need
at
to
July
be-
1st.
It would need to be updated prior to the time at which evaluations are done, a year and 3 months from now.
All right, any other questions? I have a public comment if we're done. All right, I did have it here. Mr. Raymond.
Hi, Joshua Raymond. I just wanted to say thank you to Trustee Blake and Trustee LaCouille for addressing this issue with the lawyers and bringing the changes back. I think they are very supportive of the Board of Education and to the community. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so at this point, we have a motion to approve the policy as presented. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That's a 7-0 vote, and that motion passes. All right, next, agenda item 9.3 is the MASB Board of Directors election. Our board needs to select one of the three candidates who are running for the Region 8 MASB position, which includes Wayne, Oakland, and Macomb counties. There are three candidates running for the position. Melandi Hines from Wayne Westland Community Schools, Birgit McQuiston, who currently holds the position and is from Lake Orion Community Schools, and Evelyn Pridemore from Redford Union School District. The Oakland County School Board Association's Government Relations Committee provided a forum open to all candidates that was recorded and sent to all trustees. So at this point, we need to have a discussion and make a motion to elect one of these three as the Region 8 MASB director. I know, Trustee Blake, that you attended in person. I know I watched it, so I don't know if others have any input on that. Does anyone have any input? Otherwise, I will speak.
Well, I would
Trustee
just like to
Annis?
say, I did not watch the debate, but I personally know Birgit and her service in the past on the Oakland County School Board Association's Executive Committee, as well as the current role that she's running for again. And I've always felt that she's been very thorough in the way she communicates information, and I know she's there for the right reasons. And so for that, I would bring forward a nomination for Birgit McQuiston.
So am I hearing that you have made a motion at this point to elect her, or you're just making comments at this point?
Well, if nobody else has any other comments about any of the candidates, then I would move to
Well,
nominate.
that may not be the case, but, okay. Trustee Blake?
I did attend this meeting in place of Trustee Annis, who would normally go, but I think that was when you were in DC. So the first woman, Melandi Hines, I believe, wasn't there. She didn't come. I don't know. So the other two both answered, I think, 14 questions. Birgit, I believe, she is the incumbent. She's from Lake Orion. I talked to her a little bit after. She's very knowledgeable, very experienced. The other woman, I think Evelyn Pridemore was her name. She is on Wayne County's board of School Board Association. She's not currently, she didn't have quite the experience. I liked her a lot. I would go with either one, but my thinking was, you know these people better than anyone. And so I would probably defer to you on this, Trustee Ennis.
Trustee Gupta?
I would agree with Trustee Annis, based on the debate performance and what I know of Birgit's service history, that I would second that motion when proposed.
I'll just say that I did watch this, and I agree with Trustee Blake that Evelyn Pridemore came across, I think, well as well. I do think she's less experienced. When I look at who I want to fill this MASB role, you know, I tend to look at someone who's in Oakland County, maybe representing, you know, our needs and what we may want. So that's one way I lean in that direction. I also do know Birgit, and I have seen her being in attendance with the MASB, which I think has been an issue in the past with some representatives that we've had who have been elected but not necessarily participated in the role of director as they should have. And so with that, I would definitely support a motion to elect Birgit McQuiston. Trustee Lacouille?
I'm just going to be honest and say that I've been more focused on local issues than what's going on with the MASB. I'm not familiar with these candidates, so I'm going to be abstaining from this vote. The MASB it's not a governing body over our board or anything. They offer some advice and they offer some classes, but ultimately, our board is supposed to be the governing body for our school district, so I've just been more focused on school district issues, so I'm just going to abstain from the vote.
Well, I definitely say this is not you're correct, it's not a governing body. It's, they provide a wealth of information and they advocate for school boards. Trustee Weaver?
So I'm actually more in line with Trustee Lacouille. Who's in this spot really doesn't matter a whole lot to me. But I will say that Appointee Blake's position and President Butel yours, like hearing what you say, I think it would make sense if you both support the non-incumbent. I'd be happy to support that. I think adding new voices to different positions is a good idea. You both spoke highly of her, so just going off your opinions. I would gladly support the non-incumbent if there was support there. So you at least have 3 votes.
So just to be clear, I was supporting the incumbent.
You spoke very highly of the other one as well and said you could get behind her. So I'm just saying, I'm offering that, hey, I would offer you that support if you were interested in voting for a non-incumbent. But if you're not, go ahead and vote for the incumbent.
All right, so at this point, would someone like to make a motion? Well, I'll be happy to make the motion. I'll make a motion to elect Birgit McQuiston as the Region 8 MASB Director.
Second.
I heard a second from both of you, so I'm going to put Trustee Gupta down. Oh, it was Julie. I'm sorry. I will put Trustee Alsbach down. Was there any additional discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Abstain.
So I have 6 ayes, 0 noes, and 1 abstention. Oh, you were a no. Okay, I'm sorry. All right, 5 yeses, 1 no, and 1 abstention. So with that, I would request that we fill out the ballot for Birgit McQuiston and ask that Christina Whitmore complete that and send that in for us. All right. Okay, with that, we are moving on to public comment. We do have several here. Agenda item 10 is public comment. This agenda item provides an opportunity for board members to hear from community members. If you have not completed a yellow card, please do so at this time and hand it to our Safe Ed officer in the yellow shirt. As we said, when addressing the board, you have 3 minutes to speak. Since my back is to the timer, I'm going to ask you to keep a lookout on that. When addressing the board, please state your name in relationship to the district, and please address your comments to the entire board. The board reserves the right to exclude from our meeting an individual who engages in conduct that constitutes a breach of the peace. And Is Nouran Qadri here?
Good evening, members of the RCS Board of Education. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to speak in regards to the recognition of Eid and the students who observe it, and a need that us Muslim students have in relation to it. Muslims all over the world observe a month of fasting which is called Ramadan. Based on the lunar calendar, Ramadan this year falls on March 11th through April 10th, and subsequently, Eid falls on April 11th. For those who are not yet aware, Ramadan is the most holy month in Islam. Ramadan is one of the 5 pillars of Islam and is required for Muslims of a certain age to observe and fast during this month. Muslims fast from sunrise to sunset every day for 30 days. This includes no food or water. Muslims fast for many reasons. The most significant reasons teach us a lesson. The most important of those lessons is to have empathy for those less fortunate than us. Fasting teaches us to be grateful for everything we believe God has blessed us with, especially basic needs like food and water. Fasting occurs in correspondence with our daily life, emphasizing our faith in a daily setting. As well as this, we fast to foster our relationship and spirituality with our one God. During Ramadan, we try to give as much charity as possible and try to spend time remembering God and His blessings. Eid is the commemoration of the end of this holy month. On this day, Muslims gather at the mosque to pray and to thank God for His mercy. We also spend time visiting the sick and elderly, as well as family and friends. Eid marks the biggest holiday in the Islamic calendar, which is why we feel our argument is so relevant. Muslim students every year find themselves falling behind in some way after missing school because of devotion to their faith. It is an annual choice between religion and education. Is it really fair to compromise one of 2 life-prevailing factors? We ask the staff to recognize that Muslim students throughout the district will be taking the day off to observe Eid. More specifically, we ask teachers and educators to be willing to schedule tests and exams around Eid and not the day of. This year, the in-school SAT is on Eid day. This puts students throughout the district in a difficult position again, as we have to make the choice between our faith or the most important exam in our high school career. As in my sister, Nyla Quadri, who is currently a junior and advocating alongside me, as Muslim Americans, we feel that something as significant as our most celebrated holiday should be taken into consideration when the district is choosing a day to schedule such an important test. Eventually, we hope to see a district-wide day off for Eid, but to begin, just recognizing Eid will make it easier for students to return to work after. Keep in mind, however, a Muslim student who comes back the next day after Eid is still behind in classwork and lectures still do continue. This is why the perfect solution presents itself as a recognized day off. This has been adopted by many school districts across Michigan, as close as Bloomfield, as cited in an article on bloomfield.org called Celebrating Ramadan in Bloomfield Hill School. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And then I apologize, Shona Siddiqui, sorry.
Dear members of the Rochester Community Schools Board, I'm here before you today not only as a concerned parent, but also as a representative of the Muslim students within our RCS community. This year, Ramadan, the Islamic month of fasting,
Okay, I found this on the web for Islamic month of Fat. Check it out.
concludes with Eid al-Fitr festival on April 9th or 10th, exactly on the same days in which the SAT and PSAT are scheduled. It is with a sincere plea for understanding and accommodation that I address you regarding the scheduling of the SAT and PSAT exams on the day which Eid al-Fitr is celebrated. Eid al-Fitr is a very significant religious holiday celebrated by Muslims worldwide, marking the end of Ramadan. It's a month of fasting, prayer and reflection, and community service. For our Muslim students, this day holds immense cultural and religious importance, symbolizing joy, community, and spiritual renewal. However, the current scheduling of exams on Eid Day poses a considerable challenge and burden for these students. The timing of these exams on such a sacred day places undue stress and pressure on Muslim students, undermining their ability to perform to the best of their abilities. The culmination of Ramadan and the celebration of Eid al-Fitr should be moments of joy and celebration, not overshadowed by the anxiety of academic assessments. The scheduling exams on Eid Day risks marginalizing and alienating a significant portion of our student body, hindering their academic success and sense of belonging within our school community. I urge the board to consider the diverse religious and cultural backgrounds of our students and to prioritize inclusivity and accommodation in our scheduling decisions. It is imperative that we recognize and respect the religious observances of all students, ensuring that they have the opportunity to fully participate in both their faith traditions and their academic pursuits. I respectfully request that the board take proactive steps to address this issue by moving the SAT and PSAT exams to an alternative day and one that does not conflict with Eid al-Fitr. By doing so, we demonstrate our commitment to equity, diversity, and inclusion within our school district. Furthermore, I urge the board to advocate for the recognition of Ramadan and Eid within our school district. Educating our students and staff about the significance of these observances fosters cultural understanding, respect, and empathy, ultimately enriching the fabric of our school community. In conclusion, I implore the board to take these concerns seriously and to work collaboratively with the Muslim community to find a solution that upholds the rights and dignity of all students. Together, we can strive to create an environment where every student feels valued, respected, and supported in their academic and religious pursuits. Thank you for your attention to this important matter.
Thank you. Chris, I'm not sure I can make it out. Moet?
Good evening. My name is Chris Monette. I am the parent of a Rochester high schooler and a West middle schooler. I am here tonight to speak on behalf of the Rochester mountain bike team. I understand that tonight we were publicly recognizing the MHSAA fall sports, and while I understand that MHSAA is not the governing body for mountain biking, I'm here to encourage the board and the district to advocate for our team moving forward in the future. MISCA is the organization that is recognized by USA Cycling that is the governing body for cycling all across the United States. I had the privilege of joining as a parent the mountain biking team this past year. I believe, Barb, I know we're not supposed to address directly, but you were there that day, and thank you for speaking out. I believe the meeting right after that and part of your updates. But I just ask for the advocacy moving forward. It is such an incredible group of people and athletes, and they work so incredibly hard that I just feel compelled to come up here. We travel all across the state of Michigan. This past year, the state championship was clinched at Stony Creek High School, and that's basically all I had to say, and I'm open for any questions or anything at the end. If you guys would like to email me, I'd be happy to answer anything for you. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Tiffany?
My name's Tiffany, and I have 2 children in the district. On February 27th, we as a community must vote yes on the millage proposal. A yes vote ensures that our district will receive its full per-pupil funding allowance. Supporting this millage ensures that all students receive the resources they need for a high-quality education. Investing in our school is investment in the future of our community. A yes vote on February 27th secures the funding that our schools so desperately need in order to be in a strong position to offer competitive salaries for our teachers. Although Rochester remains a top-ranked district in the state, we are at risk of our beloved teachers leaving. We need to attract educators with a competitive salary and retain our high-quality teachers by reducing the steps on their salary schedule. The time my children have left in the district is sadly coming to a close. They have already received the benefits of completing their education from the school. This would not have been possible without adequate resources to support their curriculum, staff, and students. I will be supporting the millage so our present and future students of our community can continue to have a high-quality education led by an exceptional teaching staff. And I encourage the community to support the millage as well.
Thank you. Mr. Toludo. Dennis Toludo?
Good evening. Dennis Toludo, Rochester Hills, taxpayer, grandfather of 2 students. It wasn't on my agenda to speak about this tonight, but I'm going to bring it up again. You're 18 months into this board, and the dysfunction is still outrageous. Perfect example of what happened tonight is Trustee LeCouey asked for information about invoicing before voting on it. She hadn't received it, hadn't seen it, and you, Trustee Gupta, indicated you had already seen it. The point is, all power invested by the state in the board under MCL 380 is vested in the board, the 7 of you, not the 1, not the 2 or 3 or 4. It's all 7. When a trustee who represents the elected asks for information from the administration, they better get it. You're way past misfeasance. You're into malfeasance. You are exposing the district to lawsuits every time you behave in such a manner. End of that point. I'm glad, Trustee Ines, that you went to Washington. That was an excellent report, some good information on it. I do want to talk about a subject that is near and dear to my heart as a consultant, somebody with many decades in audit compliance, cybersecurity. You're right, cybersecurity is an issue, and schools are soft targets. There was a school district in the next county over, Macomb County, that was literally shut down for 2 weeks after a hack. They literally had to rebuild the entire district from backup tapes because everything was down. Scheduling, accounts payable, you name it. The problem is Rochester, RCS, doesn't even do the bare minimum for cybersecurity. I know that because I was inside a student's laptop. I know how your systems are configured. You're not even doing the bare minimum. So I will reiterate a written proposal I made last year, free consulting. I'll come in free of charge, won't charge you a dime, but I'm telling you, you're exposed. And when children in classrooms can get to adult sites, pornographic sites, other adult sites are the primary vector, technical term in cybersecurity, that's a vector for the bad guys to come in. They can get into your network because it's already happened. You're exposed, I make the offer, it still stands.
Thank you. And then last, I have Kathy Nitz.
Hi there. Thank you. I'm a parent in the district, and it's been said before, but I just wanted to reiterate that the millage vote is February 27th. Early voting starts on February 17th. The laws are just going into effect, and so I think that bears repeating, like the voting is starting next week on this. It's worth noting also that once you turn 18, you can register to vote. It's super easy. And that the margins on these elections tend to be very slim. Legend had it that when Stony Creek was on the ballot 20-some years ago, it won by 5 votes. And so I was telling this story, and I thought, before I really spread this, I want to verify it, and so I did. And they said, well, actually, it wasn't 5 votes, it was 4. So the margins on these, it's so important that everyone gets out there and votes. I also wanted to reiterate that if this millage does not pass, the district stands to lose $24 million every year. I've heard some people say, well, you can just put it on the agenda again. But the problem with that is, aside from it being a huge waste of resources on the district, teacher bargaining started today, and we need to be in the strongest position that we can. When we say we value our teachers, we have to value our teachers, and we need to be in a strong financial position to have the best outcome possible for their bargaining. So please vote yes on February 27th or as early as February 17th. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're now moving to additional comments. 11.1 is additional comments by members of the Board of Education. Individual board members may use this time to share information about school visits, updates from committees or organizations they're assigned to, or express their personal opinion. Trustee Blake, if you'd like to start us off.
Sure. I think it was already mentioned that I attended the Oakland County School Board Association meeting, the Government Relations Committee, which I've never been, and I found it very interesting. Talking to other board members and learning all of the services they offered and learning how we can combine our voices to try to get change. So I think it's a valuable thing that we're involved in. I'm glad that we are. The other thing I wanted to address just quickly was that the process that we talked about with the changes tonight, and how, because I think it's an example of how things, while it's not great that we didn't catch that on the front end, it's a good example of how we can address problems as a district. Somebody came forth with an issue. I heard that issue. I went forward. I said, I don't know. I don't have an answer for you right away, but I'll find it. Went forward. We met with our council one time. We didn't quite get, I think Trustee LeCouy and I both didn't really feel like we got a good answer the first time. We went forward. We had another meeting. Well, first, before that, I asked the board president, can I talk to Kevin Sutton, like lawyer to lawyer? I think we could probably work this out. Well, that's not the way it works. We have to go, we have to go proper way. So she properly told me no and made me follow the process, which is what we should do. So I did follow the process. I emailed him, included all the board, told him what I wanted. He also got an email with similar information from Trustee LeCouy, I understand as well. We had our meeting. We worked it through. They proposed something new, and so we've addressed this problem. And I think that's just an example of addressing a problem from somebody in the community. I've been on the board like 4.5 months maybe now, and I've seen that. I've seen us address problems repeatedly. When I started, we didn't get invoices. I asked for that. Others had been asking for it. Trustee Gupta, Trustee LeCouy, Weaver, others had been asking for it. We've got that resolved. I'm not sure totally, but it's a shared drive that we have access to, so I don't know why some don't, but hopefully that gets fixed. But most of us have that. I don't know what the problem is. So we've addressed that issue. Literacy's been on the table since long before I was part of this board. From the day I got on, my first week I was at this school doing a visit. I pulled Mrs. Fragamenti into the principal's office, literally, for a meeting and just said, hey, I want to talk about this. And I've talked to Mr. Hedge and all these people, and I've had multiple meetings. Trustee LeCouey's bringing this up repeatedly. Other people are doing this advocacy. We now are moving forward on that issue. And we're moving forward on our strategic plan, trying to keep our strategic plan going. We've got the superintendent coming. So it looks sometimes rough up here. We get a little boisterous with each other. We definitely don't always agree. But we're getting things done. And so I would encourage anybody who has any issues in the community. We got another one come up this weekend. Some people were emailing about something. Today I was texting with Trustee Gupta. She was texting with President Butel. We're trying to resolve these issues. Anybody has an issue, bring it to us. If you want to say that the board or the administration isn't responsive, give us a try. I don't know what went on 3 years ago, 2 years ago. Give us a try now. We're going to try to address the concerns, and I think we're making real progress.
Trustee Weaver?
So I want to address one specific topic, but I'm going to address a few points from Appointee Blake. So we've heard tonight, again, the part about the millage, which all goes back to the part is we have people in our community that are concerned about funding. The misinformation that's out there is this thing about negotiations. Even if it passes, we are in the exact same financial position that we currently are in. So it does not functionally impact negotiations. It's not like we have more money to negotiate with. So the idea that we want to have a fair contract doesn't change. That's absolutely what we want to have. So to add that idea that if you don't vote for it, you're anti-teacher or anti-contract, that's just not true. The whole debate from that whole part was whether just to put it on the ballot in February or August and address concerns to try and increase the likelihood that it passes. Because again, multiple people came up here. It would be more advantageous if people got up and actually were supporting the parents that were talking about reducing central office spending, reducing wasteful spending, because that's actually where the more dollars come from that says, again, we can apply those to the classroom. Again, it's math. The dollars doesn't change with the passage of the millage. So again, when that contract comes forward, it's who votes to approve it, right? So again, anyone that's upset with the last contract, go look at who approved it. That's the board's position. The board actually approves the contract. So this whole semantical argument about making people feel bad if they are concerned about spending on lawyers and third parties and somehow they don't support teachers is just nonsense when they're showing up meeting after meeting talking about how we can reduce spending in non-value added areas to return it to the classroom. So again, that's where additional dollars actually come from. If we do not rein in the central office salaries and stuff that are bloating and growing, then where does the additional dollars come from the classroom? Because again, the millage does not add any more funds to the budget. It keeps them the same. So if we want more dollars to go to the classroom, we have to find those dollars from somewhere. We have to reduce spending from somewhere else. We have to be a sustainable district. And absolutely, that does not in any way say that someone does not support teachers or want us to have a fair contract or want us to have a contract that is absolutely respectful of our teachers. It just says we have to make sure we find it and we are fiscally responsible as a district overall. I mean, so that again is just one that gets me because again, you hear parent after meeting after meeting after meeting that have come up here for years, shown up to almost every meeting, advocating for making sure we get better spending into the classrooms. They don't show up just when it's contract negotiation time. They show up every meeting, all the time, advocating for getting more funds into the classroom. And so for those ones to be considered that they're somehow now anti-teacher for this one thing, it just doesn't make sense. And it doesn't help bridge that gap between the community and teachers. So that's just around that part. Around the policy thing, my whole point that I brought up, we need to be more proactive. There are things that we can see. We should not be as reactive as we are. If we're going to have a policy committee, absolutely policies should be vetted. They should be read. If they haven't read them, they should not be coming to our board table. I mean, that's just, again, that's inexcusable. That's not a, hey, it came to our board table and we found out we didn't read something and someone brought it to our attention, so we fixed that problem. That's not a problem we should be fixing. That's just not doing what we're supposed to do. If we have a policy committee, anything that's going to come before the board should be vetted by that policy committee. It should be understood. What is the policy? What does it change? Why are we doing it? And that should be able to be spoke to at the board table. Those should be known questions. That didn't happen. And again, anyone can try to explain why, but to try and sell it as, oh, that's a problem we solved. No, that's a problem we created. That's just one that can't be created by the board. Now, specifically, the issue I wanted to address is around SEL and DEI. I sent an article from the New York Times, which again should be palatable from most of the majority of the board, that cited a study around SEL and how the actual what is being done could actually be causing harm and increasing mental health. It is a study in it. It cites research that goes back, find the date because I want to get accurate, 8 to 5 years. Different studies have been around this idea of certain behavioral mentality stuff that is tied to SEL. That was dismissed by the board, laughed off that it was an opinion article. It is a scientific study. There's more out there. But so I brought this up again because we are seeing stuff continue to be rolled out, and No one can even answer what it is we do. We don't know what programs it is. We don't know what it does. The fact that there might be science and research out there that says we could potentially be doing harm, even if we're not, it is absolutely irresponsible for us not to at least look at it. Think of what we've seen in the last, 4 years. In 2020, we now know we did harm to our students by closing the schools. There was data around, there was science around that should have been known by the board and should have made different decisions. It didn't. We can own it, but we don't have to make those mistakes again. Around the literacy conversation, there's been science and stuff out for 40 years almost saying that we weren't doing it right, but it was ignored. So all I'm asking our board to do is do our due diligence and know what we are doing with SEL. If we cannot speak to it, and we could potentially be doing harm to our students for mental health, we owe it to at least look and understand what we are doing. That's the bare minimum.
Trustee Lakui?
All right, well, I'll speak to this invoice thing just really quickly. I've been in conversation with the district about this since January, but the new system that's been created to share invoices with us is not allowing me to view the invoices using Google Preview. There's restrictions on it that are preventing me from scrolling down. I've sent screenshots to it to Mr. Silveri and to the board president. I don't think I've been copying the board on all of my emails, which is perhaps why some are proclaiming now that they didn't know that. But the point being, I've wanted to see some invoices. I requested them the way I had done before, and I just didn't get them in time. But I'm hoping that that problem will be resolved. Mr. Silveri said that he thinks that there's a solution coming. So that sounds good. I'm all in favor of addressing problems that come before us. Our job as board members is to protect the public interest and to provide oversight in a way that benefits the district and that directs most of our funds towards teaching and learning. And that's why I'm asking questions about curriculum and about how we're spending our resources. Because the truth of the matter is we don't have an unlimited amount of resources. We can't just spend unlimited amounts of money. We have to make choices. And as board members, I think we need to be responsible for thinking about how we're making choices when it comes to district spending and ask the right questions so that we can direct the money where it's supposed to go. We all agree, everyone on here, I'm going to presume everyone probably in this room who's at a board meeting on a Monday night loves our district and wants to see the best for our district. And we acknowledge there's wonderful things going on and staff who go above and beyond for our students. And we want to make sure that they're getting resources and compensation and incentives to stay here in the district and teach our kids. So the way we do that is we have to manage some of these more unpleasant things sometimes at the top, to make hard choices when we need to make sure that they can get what they need to just do their job and do it well. I'm encouraged by the direction I've seen us go in terms of literacy. It remains to be seen how it all pans out, but I'm so happy to see it go towards structured literacy. I've been advocating for that for a long time. Regarding the financial controls, I'm disappointed that the board voted down having that discussion because I think that's important. But I've seen that sometimes it is helpful just to shine a light on the problem. Sometimes that can be enough to inspire people to do the right thing and take the right actions. And I'm hoping that's something that maybe we'll see with the financial controls. So we'll see how that pans out. It is election year, so maybe more things will get done. So thank you all for coming tonight. And those are my comments.
Trustee Alsbach?
So I want to wish Happy New Year for those of you that celebrate Lunar New Year. And my heart goes out to the students that we will be working, that are celebrating Eid. So Eid Mubarak and a peaceful Eid to you. I do think we should look at removing those testing dates because I know as a person who's been a testing coordinator, this challenge goes all the way back to me, and we've always need to look at our students. We want to make sure that they are able to do their best. And, we wouldn't ask Catholic students to come in and take a high-stakes test on Christmas or Christmas Eve. So I hope the district can work something out that we can arrange that for students that celebrate other religions. I would love to see us recognize the mountain bike team. I know that we have been talking about that among ourselves. I think it's really important that when we start, when we have a united team and we see that grow like we did in the esports where they started with 2 and the next year they have 4, we really want to offer those diverse opportunities to our students. And I just am very excited to see what will be coming up in the future. I know we're getting emails about science fairs, and I look forward to visiting the school science fairs.
Trustee Gupta?
I just want to say that I also support moving in the direction of celebrating our bike club, mountain biking, thank you. Lost that word for a second. The mountain biking club, we have received your messages. We do hear you. We're trying to, we're working with our administrative team to see what we can figure out. I'm also very empathetic about the request to not have major testing during a major holiday. I'm not sure what we're able to do on that because I don't know if these are state-imposed dates or not, but our administrative team will definitely be made aware of our concerns and your concerns, more importantly, on that to see, what is possible. With that, I did just want to address a couple things. I just will say as far as the millage goes, I have yet to hear from a teacher who doesn't think the millage proposal passing is an important aspect of their future. So I'm not sure why we would not support that. I also want to speak to the comments made about district finances. For one thing, I haven't seen anything or any evidence that helps me to see things similarly to Trustee Lakui. It's okay that we see things differently, but I just don't agree with the characterizations that have been shared there. So that's why I didn't support that motion. I also I've only seen evidence and heard from stakeholders who've looked at our finances, like auditors and even the strategic planning firm and the superintendent search firm and whatnot, who have said that our financial sustainability and our financial outlook, our ways of managing finances historically have been extremely good and are sustainable. So there have been awards recognizing that and all sorts of things. So with that, if anything, I would in the future entertain maybe a motion of confidence in our administrative team and their ability to manage those finances for the district. Thank you.
Trustee Ennis?
Thank you. I like that idea, Trustee Gupta. I would also like to concur with Trustee Alsbach and Trustee Gupta regarding the district looking at the feasibility of how our testing schedule for the PSAT and the SAT do impact our Muslim students who do celebrate Ramadan and Eid. We certainly don't want to hinder a student's ability to perform well on these tests, but I think most importantly, we want to make sure that we model as a district the respect for the values that we purport, which center around inclusivity. I'd also like to just touch on the fact that there was a phrase that came to mind during the discussion of possibly getting rid of a construction manager and what that might look like and how it could be different. And the phrase penny wise and pound foolish popped into my head. And I guess from my perspective, I'm not in the construction management business. I'm not in the facilities management business. So as a trustee, I will be leaning on the folks in our district that have that expertise and look to hire individuals in that space and that realm. And I just wish sometimes we would give others that deference of maybe knowing more than we do. Lastly, I just want to say
I attended the Rochester High School PTSA meeting via Zoom, and the last SEAB meeting. We're updating our document for that, which will come forward to the board shortly. That's all I have.
Thanks. I didn't really have that much that I was going to talk about tonight. I did just want to point out, it seems like a broken record, but there was a comment made, or at least I heard, that if the millage did not pass, it didn't mean a change for the district, but if the millage does not pass, the district would receive $24.5 million less than we currently receive. So may be correct that if it passes, it's the same amount of money that we have, but if it does not pass, we would have $24.5 million less once the current millage expires. And if that were the case, to me, that sends a message that the community does not support the schools, and I would think that would be concerning to our district, to the staff within our district, and I fear more staff looking to move to a district where that's not the case, as well as the potential for having fewer applicants for any positions we do have open. And in the short term right now, what would that do to the interest in potential superintendent candidates? So anyway, those are my concerns if the millage did not pass at this point. Other things that, just to touch on briefly, is that strategic planning is continuing. Today was the first of a 2-day work session to take the feedback and input from the community and try and put those into the beginning stages of some deliverables and action items. So I'm looking forward to continuing that. There was a lot of discussion and thought today put into that, and I appreciate the people who were there working on that. With that, we're going to move on to agenda item 11.2, which are additional comments by members of the administration. And this allows the administration to share information they believe is valuable to the board or the community. These are comments and not discussion items, so I don't know, Mr. Murphy, Mrs. Fregemini?
Yeah, real quickly, we're getting a lot of questions as we approach spring break about next year's calendar. That's again a negotiated topic, although I do think we'll have some information going out this week about spring break, winter break, and a timeline, an expected timeline to know the first day of school. So we'll put that together over the next few days, and the community and the board will be told of this first, and then the community an expected sort of outline for at least a few helpful dates for next school year.
Thank you. Mrs. Fregemini?
Thank you, Madam President. I just would like to share on behalf of our teachers who are here, our teachers that are watching or who we're representing, one of our commitments in social and emotional wellness is for every student to feel safe and valued and respected. To Norrin, to our community that have brought forward concerns, our cabinet has gone to our buildings, and your voices matter, and you matter. Our curriculum department has been working at the state level with the state level testing dates. We are advocating for the future to avoid those dates for the stress. There should never be a choice that you have to make under these circumstances. So Mr. Jaluka has shared that he is collaborating with our building administrators, with our counselors, and we will be providing an option for an alternate date this year for you to take that testing. And we will continue to work diligently and advocational at the state level for those dates that are performed. So I just was anxious to make sure that you know and that the voices that you bring forward truly matter, and your wellness is part of the reason why it's making a profound impact on the lives of students is our commitment as a school district to our compelling why. So thank you for stepping up tonight, advocating for your community. Thank you.
So I normally speak off the cuff. I'll probably do a little bit of that too, but I do have something that I wanted to read as well. So I want to speak to the topic of comments that are submitted in response to posts on our Rochester Community Schools District social media sites. Specifically, I'd like to address concerns that have been conveyed regarding comments that have been hidden and posts that have been removed. The district has had guidelines in place for many years which have driven these decisions. These guidelines have been vetted by our legal counsel. This past fall, they were updated to reflect more specific criteria as provided by our legal counsel. Following is a portion of these guidelines which are accessible on our district websites. I'm just going to read a piece of that, a little bit lengthy, but bear with me, I think it's important. The district's social media, to the extent it is open to the public for use, collectively constitutes a limited public forum. All comments and postings on district social media are subject to monitoring and, where permitted, removal by the district. Public posts or comments on district social media must address district business and, where applicable, the particular district business under discussion. The district reserves the right to remove comments or postings by members of the public when the district determines that the content, including links to such content, falls under any of the following prohibited categories: off-topic, such as a post unrelated to district business, a comment to a district-related post that is unrelated to the post, spam, content that is incoherent or contains a virus, etc., abusive, such as threatening, harassing, discriminatory against protected classes, personal attacks, etc., illegal, such as defamation, promotion of violence or destruction or illegal activities, etc., obscenity, vulgarity, profanity, or sexually explicit or pornographic, campaigning, whether in support of or opposition to political campaigns, candidates, or ballot measures, content that may compromise the safety or security of the district, its community, or members of the public, content that contains personal identifying information or sensitive personal information, content that contains links to other websites, photographs, videos, audio, or graphics, commercial information such as solicitation, advertisement, product or service endorsement, etc., copyrighted, trademarked, or otherwise legally protected content, the posting of which violates another's ownership interest. Users who repeatedly or egregiously violate the content-related guidelines in this policy may be banned from posting and/or commenting on the district's social media, such as multiple off-topic posts or a single instance of posting a link to a pornographic video. So again, that comes directly from those procedures that are posted on the district website. The reality is that an extremely small number of comments have been found to violate these guidelines. However, the pushback to hidden comments or removed posts has at times been intense and included allegations that the district is violating First Amendment rights to free speech. First, I want to stress that we wholeheartedly disagree with this characterization and reiterate that our guidelines were developed with the advice of legal counsel. However, this serves as an unnecessary distraction at a time when we are working diligently to move our district forward and build public trust and confidence. For this reason, and to eliminate the time investment needed to apply the guidelines and maintain appropriate and productive dialogue, I've decided to disable comments on our Rochester Community Schools social media sites, including Facebook, X, and Instagram. We will continue to use these sites to help communicate important information and share the many amazing things happening in our district and throughout our district on a regular basis. For those that may still desire to respond in some way, whether it's a positive affirmation or a critique, you may still do so, and we encourage you to do so via the Talk to RCS feature on our district website. And finally, I want to acknowledge that I have consulted with others on this. Although not everyone agrees that it's the right thing to do, this is ultimately my decision to make and one that I'm solely responsible for. It is one that I've been contemplating for quite some time and have ultimately come to believe that it is in the best interest of Rochester Community Schools. This change will go into effect tomorrow. Secondly, this has been a lot of comments on this, and but I feel like it's still important to cover it, even though I may be being repetitive when it comes to the non-homestead operating millage proposal. What we really would ask people to do more than anything is just make informed decisions and vote on the merit of this ballot initiative, strictly that. So I'm going to repeat a few facts that are just really critical for people to understand. Every district in the state of Michigan, and this goes back to the 1990s when this was initiated, but every single district in the state of Michigan, to get our full per pupil foundation allowance, must levy 18 mills on all non-homestead properties within our district boundaries. We have to, every single district in the state of Michigan. So if we do not receive that, our current $9,608 per student would be reduced to $8,060 per student. And again, that equates to a loss of $24.5 million in district funding. That's an annual reduction. That number may end up varying over time, but just know that that's a huge loss to the district financially, and we would incur that loss annually. The really critical portion of this, I think, is the ballot language can be confusing. It speaks to a renewal and an increase. The increase is related to the fact that if voters approve a certain amount of millage for us, it needs to be above the 18 mills that we can levy, because over time there's something called Headley erosion based on inflation with property values. What we've seen over the last 10 years, the last proposal was a 10-year one that was approved by the voters at approximately 20 million. During the course of these last 10 years, we have never levied more than 18 mills. We couldn't if we wanted to. Districts cannot do that. 18 mills is it, that's all we can levy. The reason that we had that additional amount approved is because Headley erosion ultimately takes that down. We've seen in the last 10 years that's gone from 20 all the way down to 18.5. What this will do, this is a 5-year proposal. It will take that number of mills approved by the voters to 19 mills. We expect that over the course of the next 5 years, that will continue to erode due to Headley. The goal is simply to keep that amount above 18 so that we can continue to levy the 18, right? But at no time will we ever levy more than 18. We cannot, we could not if we wanted to. So the reality is that for homestead property owners, anybody who, the home that you live in, this tax does not apply to you, does not apply to us. I'm a homeowner in town as well. So this has no bearing on the taxes that we pay whatsoever. For non-homestead property owners, there is no change. This will not impact their taxes in any way, shape, or form. The passage of this millage will not increase property taxes on non-homestead properties. It will maintain it at that 18 mill rate that is currently being paid. Those are really critical facts that I think those two things in particular are really important for people just to know. And again, what we're simply asking is that folks vote on this based on the merits of the ballot initiative in and of itself. And just know those facts when you go ahead and cast your vote. Everybody has the right to vote in any way that they choose. All we ask is that you make a well-informed decision, and if anybody still might have remaining questions about this, we would be happy to, I would be happy to entertain those questions and provide additional information at any time. Thanks, appreciate it.
All right, I've got a couple announcements. February 19th and 20th, there is no school for midwinter recess. February 22nd is the Board of Education special meeting at 6 o'clock right here at Van Hoosen Middle School, and that's for superintendent evaluation training. On February 26th, we have the Board of Education work session, again here at Van Hoosen at 6 p.m. And February 27th is the non-homestead millage election. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting at, what time is it? 9:18. Moved by Trustee Annis. Is there support for that? Trustee Gupta. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's a 7-0 vote, and we are adjourned at 9:18. Thank you, everyone who's still here, and have a good night.